Consume, enhance, replicate.
I'm going to regret this.
Consume, enhance, replicate.
Earl Grey with a
Earl
twist of
Grey.
lemon, and I didn't take the lid off of my Yeti cup, so it is 9,000 degrees.
Ah,
Holy shit!
that is.
No audio yet. No.
Yeah, it
fuck
just
you.
started. It just
Enhance,
started.
replicate.
So
Oh, so
yeah.
hi everybody.
Hello. The favorite of mine is not Earl Grey, but Lady Grey. This is Earl Grey's sister with a little bit of lemon and orange built into it.
I actually bought this on accident, so that's a thing.
Yeah, it happens.
Rose. You
Hello,
beautiful,
Rose.
sultry ginger goddess, you.
All right, so to start our death today, so we can capture all the craziness. Everybody ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, click.
Okay then.
Must resist temptation to scream
Oh.
about a very specific type of grieves.
I have to turn my input needs to go up a little bit.
Oh, you have it turned down for Man-at-Arms voice?
Yeah, it's got to go down to like 30 for that.
Jeez. By the way, introduction. I enjoyed the introduction.
Oh, you played it for her already, you bastard.
Did I play it for you already?
You sent it to me.
Oh, did I send it to you? Okay.
I thought you did.
Maybe I did. I don't know. I gotta pull it up actually. I forgot all about that because we should play it on stream just so that everyone. I didn't grab it off because usually I put that in after the fact, so I didn't even think about it.
Oh, quick question. Stream does my mic sound like a robot? Because that's been a thing lately.
Not for us, or at least not for
Oh,
me.
it won't. It won't through Audacity. It'll just come straight through Twitch, and I'll sound like this all the time. Yeah, it's horrible.
You sound good, Rick.
I mean, I have off days.
I mean, don't we all? Don't we all? Although my off days don't sound like a robot.
Unfollow Bob Ross on Twitch. That seems extraneous. He did.
Ooh. Rough.
I mean, I'm never going to watch it. There are no
Why
mistakes,
not?
It's just happy little accidents.
He's awesome. He's so calming.
I mean, never mind. It's fine.
Wicked. You sound like a mechanic in desperate need of retirement.
I just yell at the mechanics. I don't actually try to fix the
One of my favorite tweets is from you was do you know what's wrong with the truck? Well, you're missing the front part, but other than that,
Yeah.
Not a problem. That's a true Hollywood story.
Oh my goodness.
My favorite one is like, can you come out and help? And I walk up to the car and like the entire dashboard has exploded, and I go, nope, and went right back inside the office. Whatever you were trying to fix, you did it wrong. And it turned out they were actually doing it right. I Googled it. They were trying to change the blower motor in the AC of the vehicle.
Oh no, yeah. You kind of
and it's actually dead in the center of the dashboard, like in the middle. I'm like, what sadist bastard created this?
So I had to replace the switch for one of those where it switches from like floor vents to like whatever the top vents, the two top vents are.
Oh, yeah.
Mine will still click because it's a freaking Mustang, and for some ungodly reason Ford decided that this type of mechanism worked great. Spoiler alert, it sucks. It breaks on every fucking Mustang. I had to tear apart the dash. It sucks.
Yeah, that's a thing that happens.
It sucks. Can't fix what ain't there. Truth.
It's truth.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so that's a phrase the Australians use. Well, at least in my circle, we say "struth."
Truth.
Struth. That's a strong truth. Truth.
I had a gentleman try on shoes and ask. He was talking to one of my coworkers who was sitting on those yoga balls, like those yoga ball stools.
God.
He's like, "What are you shitting on?" It's like, oh my God, I am going to die. He kept saying it too. I was like, I know what you're saying, but sir, it's just like very loud, elderly gentleman talking about shitting on the ball.
Your pronunciation is failing.
Or it's spot on.
Or, Scottish. That would also work.
Yes. Oh, la, la, la.
I actually lowered my desk and borrowed a chair this evening.
That's probably wise.
I figured standing up for another 3 or 4 hours was not conducive to life.
No, probably not. Why you shit on item? I shit whatever I damn please, thank you very much.
I mean, as you do.
Yeah.
I don't judge.
Blue, are we worried about any sort of language on this one? Because I have a feeling.
No. I'm going to just mark it as explicit.
Yay! Thank you.
No monetization for you.
All right. YouTube doesn't monetize shit for us anyways.
The irony, my channel fully monetized at all times.
Really?
No. Yes, it's amazing.
How?
I don't get copyright strikes. I don't get language strikes. I never have. Not one time.
How?
I
Ryan's even
don't
in chat.
know.
Hi,
I,
Ryan.
I think it's because I'm signed up with one of the services that takes like 10% of your stuff.
Oh,
Mm.
really?
And they get to my account and they're just like, I don't want to deal with this guy. We're just going to give him a pass.
I don't want to deal with this. That's too much work.
Well, it's not like the YouTube rolls in the cash. I'm like, it's 20% of nothing. Yeah, there you go. Enjoy that.
Oh my gosh.
Enjoy your legally binding one-sided contract.
Oh my goodness.
I need a coaster or something. This is going to get annoying. Hold, please.
Hi. Hello. Rip every word on chat? Why? Why, Zach? Sends a personal censor for Rick? Nah. Hey, Guardian.
Yes.
This is going to be amazeballs.
I don't have a coaster, but I have some paid bills. That'll work.
Yes.
I have a very, very cool looking mouse pad. Now, don't judge from me putting my coffee mug on my mouse pad.
Show me. Wait. Never mind.
I mean, I can if you give me a hot minute.
I don't even know what my Discord is.
Well, you're in it, so something's
yeah.
something's
That doesn't-
happening.
That doesn't mean I know how to locate it anymore.
I don't even know how am I talking to you? What is this?
Where am I at? What is this thing?
It's like the podcast. As soon as the call connects, I'm out. I don't want to see that.
Oh my goodness.
It's like incognito, and I'm out.
Let's see here. Find the channel. There. It's in Peeps. Or not Peeps, it's in private chat show.
Okay, then.
Where I booped you yesterday, so you should have an alert probably still sitting there.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
I might have actually marked your alert red because I'm in way too many Discords and I feel bad about leaving any of them because I don't want somebody to feel slighted.
I have a folder with Discords that I don't really participate in, but I'm in. So
Someone
my
doesn't
own
answer their
Discord. I
DMs.
deleted it.
you guys on Twitter. Oh goodness.
Okay, I know where I'm at. This is fine. Someone doesn't answer their DMs. No, you should use Twitter at all times.
All right. So we should probably get started because I think Blue has to get up early tomorrow, is what it sounds like.
Yep.
So,
Get to drive to get the minion.
So we don't have a fancy introduction on the stream like you guys do for your highfalutin production. I just
Ours
do an
doesn't work
audio.
anyway. It's fine.
It kind of works when Ryan's
I
on top
listened
of
to
his
the
shit.
show, for fuck's sake.
Okay. For fuck's sake. I will
Every
get
week.
fucking started.
I mean, it takes me 3 days, but I get through it.
Well, there's 3 days worth of shows, so yeah.
Takes you 3 days.
So we're recording top 3 first. Just FYI. Do you remember what top 3 is?
Yes.
Okay. And welcome to FFC Top 3, a show where we, your FFC hosts, count things down from 3 to number 1. Thank you for joining us this week. This week we have crazy. We have crazy. This is happening. We have a momentous occasion in which a dear friend of ours, ManAtArms, the one Destiny video content creator who has managed to make my wife watch a video more than once related to Destiny. We have ManAtArms here. And tonight on Top 3, we're going to discuss our top 3 moments in history, moments in time, places we want to go to.
Time periods to visit.
Would it be time periods or like events in time periods? Like I was still a little iffy on which way we're going with that because time periods can be distinguished.
I went with times. So like I have like rough
5
years.
o'clock.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
works.
know what I'm going to come out with, so I mean,
It's fine.
we'll see.
It's fine. We're just gonna make it happen. But we have Blue Crew, we have ManAtArms, we have myself, and the order is thus: Blue Crew, ManAtArms, and then myself. Blue, what's your number 3?
So Rome at the height of the empire, which is roughly about 117 Common Era. Mostly just to see that thing in all its splendor. Because the crazy thing is like looking back through the history and everything, like we don't have any real idea of what was actually there. We have some idea, but we don't like. We've never seen really the like Colosseum at its full height and everything. So there's like all this stuff that just really, really cool possibilities.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of other not cool possibilities around that time too.
Oh yeah,
like
there's
just
totally.
saying.
I mean, to be fair, in the history of humanity, even with all the nonsense that's going on in our current years, to be human, this is kind of probably one of the better times to be alive, because even like historically, it is continuously getting, it's slowly, but it is continuously getting better. Like the further back in history as you go, the more likely you are going to hit atrocities that you probably can't imagine.
I mean, there's atrocities now.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like this is, I mean, there's at least a degree of sense of decorum and of, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, oh well, back in medieval Europe, it was such a. It was like, nah, well, let's not oversell it too much. Like there was a lot of stuff that you probably don't want to be around for.
Fair.
Like
Very
the plague.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have less likelihood of dysentery now.
Organ trail. Yeah.
God damn it, dysentery.
What
I'm
about
done.
you, Rick? What's your number 3?
I went in a completely different direction because I was thinking the same, along the ssame lines as Blue, and I was like, well, and I mean, no offense by this, but I was like, it'd be a little self-indulgent just to go and the going see Babylon was my first initial response. But I was like, well, that's not really going to do anything for me. So I'm actually going to steal one from one of my coworkers. Just to see if it even happened, I would like to see Gabriel give the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad.
Oh, interesting.
Because that would be a spectacle. You see Angel Gabriel show up and go, and here's the Quran. Enjoy.
Have fun.
Burning bush. And any other, like just kind of that religious thing. That'd just be interesting. All those different miracles in that time period.
So if that didn't happen, then I know, well, everything is wrong and we can go see the Tower of Babel now. Just throwing that out there.
Sure.
Just throwing that out there.
Okay. I'm trying to think. So I went with my number 3 as seeing the invention of fireworks.
Mulan.
Going way, kind of. Well, not necessarily Mulan in particular. I don't want to attack the Huns. To defeat the Huns. I mean, no, it's more of the. I want to see just the accident that was the beginning of fireworks.
Oh gosh,
because that would be amusing. It's not like profound. It's just one of those moments where somebody messed up. And it just became this beautiful thing that we shoot off every New Year's Eve at midnight. It's terrifying every dog in the neighborhood. It's great. It's beautiful. Anyway, shall we move to number 2?
Yeah.
Do it.
Well, you'll be glad to know, Rick, that my number 2 is Babylon. That's 600 BC. Because I mean, Hanging Gardens. It's one of the wonders of the world, supposedly. So, but no, yeah, Green. Actually, your number 3 makes me think of. I think it's John Mulaney. Has a gig where he's like, if I could time travel, I want to go back in time and high five the guy who was about to invent the high five.
Oh gosh. be the talk about a paradox. Be the person that invents the high five / forces the invention of the high five. Starting our time travel talk a little early. Oh man. Babylon, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's worth the price of admission, I think.
Yeah, I mean, well, again,
was-
similar to the height of the Roman Empire. It's one of those things that there really isn't. It's just not really known, and to me, it's like, and it's one of those things also that like within literature and within a lot of the histories, it's so revered, it's so spoken highly of. And
right.
And then you go and you look and you're like, yeah, we think this is where Babylon was. We think this might be where the Hanging Gardens were, but there's no, like, you can't even conceptualize just how that would actually look.
Do we, speaking of like the ancient wonders, this is just a random off topic. Colossus of Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that? Like, where was that? I have a vague idea in my head, but
like where
In Rhodes.
I can feel Green like just
just the seething anger.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I can't find roads on a map, but
yeah.
But like,
what it
thank
means.
you. I
Google
just.
I mean, no, technically, if I'm there, I would have to ask directions because they don't have Google yet. But
Yeah,
my
thank you.
gosh.
Thank you.
It was.
nor do I speak Greek.
I think it was in the bay or the entrance of the Bay of Rhodes.
Right. It's like the whole the Lord of the Rings version of it was like an like a not necessarily a tribute, but like a similar concept.
So I think like it's argued where it is. It looks like. Hang on, I'm looking real quick to see if I can.
Rhodes Island. That
Mhm.
makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
But geographically, where is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Right.
trying to find. Like,
Oh, Pins has a good one. We're gonna do. I'm gonna pull some from chat once we get towards the end
Yeah.
this time because there's some good ones out there. Rick, what's your number 2 while Blue's looking?
Okay, so this is spiritual and yet comical at the same time. So this is another spiritual one. So both in Christianity and Islam, they have the story of Moses.
Mm-hmm.
And the story is almost identical, except when you get to the end of the story. So in Islam, the physical angel of death appears to Moses when it's time for Moses to die. I think the angel of death is Azrael in Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
But the Islam version is much more entertaining because basically, I'm going to give you my version of it because it's funnier. Because I made the guy who is teaching me all about this crack up laughing. He's like, I like your version better, so I'm going to give you my version. So the angel of death appears as like, Moses, God said, it's time to go. So Moses goes, nah, man, I'm going to the promised land, and then punches the angel of death in the eye. The angel of death was not ready for this, so he went back to God. And God's like, so where is Moses? And he was just like, listen, I know I went
down there.
The dude punched me in my eye. So you just like gave him a pass on that? I told you.
That's kind of amazing.
I'm going to save the rest of the story. Basically, well, no, I'll tell you the rest of the story just for context. So God goes, I respect that he punched you in the eye. So tell Moses, go back. and cover up this time. Don't let him hit you again.
Don't let him hit you again.
But tell him to grab the back of an ox and with one hand and pull out as many hairs as he can in one go. And however many hairs he has, that's how many more years of life I'll allow Moses to stay. So Angel Death's like, yo, don't hit me. So tells him to run down. Moses goes up to the ox and he pulls 83 hairs. And Moses goes, shit, man, I'm already old and tired. You know what? Fuck it. Let's just go. Just take me now. And Angel Death is like, fine.
Just
So
begrudgingly.
I would have paid to see that.
That's pretty funny. Oh my gosh.
I just love the I'm gonna punch you in the face.
I had to use the swearing for that story because it
Right.
makes
Yeah, it really does. It really adds a little special something to that religious story. My goodness. My number 2, I have a background in music. And so my number 2 has to do with an event that happened in music history, which I do not want to be in the building when it happened, but I want to be a bystander outside the building when it happened. And the event I'm talking about is when the very first showing of Stravinsky's Rite of Spring happened. Because what ended up happening in the very first showing of it is the entire building rioted and they just caused a complete and utter ruckus. Like people were ready to burn the building down because they were so upset about it. And it's a ballet. It's a very provocative ballet about, yeah, you can kind of guess what it's
'Cause
going to be about.
that's
Rite of Spring.
Is that the one where they dance themselves to death?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Among other things. But yeah.
Well, right.
It's-
Yeah.
But yeah, it caused quite the riot, and it's one of the most notable events in music history that I think would be kind of amusing to be just like that person on the side of the street, just seeing angry mobs come out of this highfalutin ballet. Just, it's amazing. Yes, Wicked, you are correct. It was not. It's not quite an orgy on stage, but
it was the pagan ritual of it's the Rite of Spring.
If you've seen Spring Awakening, that's like a modern day telling of it. That's a musical. But anyway, we should move to number 1. Yeah, you haven't because you don't watch musicals.
I do not watch musicals.
I really think you should watch a few different musicals, including
my wife asked, in all seriousness.
Mormon.
My wife, we're driving. I think we were driving home the other night, and we're talking about because Minion's not up here with us right now. He's with my parents, and she's like, we should go see a movie. And she looked over. She goes, so how drunk do we have to be to go watch Cats?
Oh gosh,
I was like, no, like, this is not happening.
So I love musicals. I appreciate musicals. I appreciate the fact that Cats did something for music theater that hadn't been done before, but why the fuck they decided to do a movie of it, I have
That's
no
what
idea.
I was trying to explain. I'm like, why?
No story.
Why are we doing a movie this? And she's like, but there's so many famous people in it. I'm like, that has never guided me into a movie theater ever. Like,
literally based off of a series of short poems by, I think, T.S. Eliot. Like, that's the whole. There's no story. There's nothing. There's nothing there to grasp onto. So the fact that they made it in a musical, the stage direction, the costuming, the lighting, yes, that was amazing when they did it for a stage. But for a movie, it's weird.
That was a very gentle way of saying that. Yes.
Yes. Anyway.
I'm not even watching that when it comes out on Redbox.
Yeah, don't put yourself through that. The music's okay. Like, the music's not bad. It's just there's no story to follow. So it's really, I would rather go watch opera than go watch Cats.
Same. That's probably a whole other conversation.
Yes. Blue.
So number one.
Yes, please.
Alexandria in Egypt around the 200-ish BC period, because that would be the height of the Library of Alexandria. And that is one of the wonders of the world that sadly we don't even... There's
Didn't
nothing
it get
left.
burned down
Yep,
after
it got burned
the
down.
invasion?
It was basically collateral damage during one of the battles, which it's terrible, but yeah, yep. Similar to the Colossus of Rhodes, which when I was looking real quick, it only stood for like 55 years, and the earthquake knocked it down.
Gotcha.
I sent you the map. I think it's like it's a Greek island, so I can't pronounce it. It's basically translates into Rhodes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
It just meant, was it on the bay? Was it on the road? Was it on
no. Yeah, it was supposedly over. So there's a bit like a, it's not a lagoon. I don't know what the term is, but it's an enclosed place where ships could come in, and the storms would not be able to hit them because it was on the Mediterranean. It was just south. It was just off the southern coast of Turkey. And so there was this it was like an inlet basically, and the Colossus supposedly was built to stand across the inlet, and it was meant to be a protective thing, which is why when the earthquake, I think it was like 226, I want to say, there was a massive earthquake, and the Colossus fell, and the Oracle of Delphi had basically told them it was because they pissed off Helios, which was who the statue was. And yeah, that was not fun.
Interesting.
Okay, so this one is totally self-indulgent and voyeuristic. I would like to witness the Battle of Thermopylae.
That's fair.
I mean, all of mine have been really selfish and wanting to laugh at the moment, just because the moment is anyway.
I want to watch 300 Spartans in a trench fight 10,000 Persians for 3 days with
3
a bucket
days
of popcorn,
and then invent the longest race ever. It's like,
yeah.
Let's go tell them that we're not doing too good.
Go
I
back
mean,
and tell them we did.
Yeah,
I mean, they did really well.
Oh no,
considering
they
the
did.
odds.
But
like
yeah,
seriously.
oh god, yeah.
Oh man, I feel like mine's going to be very anticlimactic. And
They
And so
weren't
much.
as buff as Gerard Butler.
what's that? What did you say?
Black flag.
Oh no, they aren't as buff as Gerald Butler
You don't know
though.
that. You weren't
You
there.
don't. Oh
You
my
ain't got nothing to
goodness.
say that, do you?
Okay. So my number one is actually a super recent event, and so much, and it's also not world changing by any stretch of the imagination. But Monty Ohm from Rooster Teeth and I can't think of the other two writers' names. Oh gosh, why am I Miles and can't think of his name. Anyway, the creation of the story of Ruby happened at a diner, and Monty basically took ketchup on a napkin and like created the world off of this napkin and type thing, and everything was based off of it, and they fleshed out the story just in one night at a diner when they were just Carrie, thank you, Black Flag. Carrie and Miles. They fleshed out the whole story in one setting at a diner, and it's a pretty impressive series considering that everything got fleshed out sitting there, the concepts, the ideas, and then Monty himself, just watching Monty do his work, because the man was a genius when it came to animation, because he created his own program to do the animations with. Like, he made everything to make that show.
Well,
and he was
'cause
initially he used it for
animations.
RVB.
Yeah, I was about to say the animation was made for RVB, because that was the whole bargain, was if he could get RVB done, the what's his face would let him do the first season of Ruby. And
Yeah.
so he did it, and it was like he did it in like just a unbelievable amount because they only had a short, like it was like 2 weeks or something ridiculous. Like it was
Yeah.
like that whole story of how Ruby actually even got the green light is simply amazing. Like I didn't know the story about that's similar to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Douglas Adam wrote it on napkins during his subway rides into work.
Yeah. I saw another tweet earlier today that one of the devs for now I can't Kratos, I can't think of the name of the series, God of War.
Right.
Kratos, the character Kratos was created on a napkin as well.
Yeah.
So many different concepts that turn into these amazing stories or amazing events just created on a napkin that's probably got pizza stains on it and other things. It's kind of an amazing snapshot to make sure that you don't take advantage of those kind of moments, that you can actually make something come to life out of it. And enough of the sappiness. Do we have any like almost made your list type things? I'm gonna read a few of the ones that are in chat. I think Penn said he wanted to do Stonehenge, kind of see how that was created, which would be really interesting.
I'm going
And
to
Easter
regret
Island.
this.
Yeah,
What's I think
both
this
of
other
those.
I would like to know the identity of Jack the Ripper, but
that
would probably cause a paradox of some magnitude. So I passed.
Of your own past?
Because, well, to me, it'd be like just a dude. It's like, and that's a dude. I have no idea who that is.
Dude.
I must now take this dude to somebody that can identify said dude. So I threw that right out the window. I'm like, this is just causing all kinds of problems.
This is not worth it. Pins also said Bermuda Triangle, December 5th, 1945.
Oh, when the planes...
Flight 19.
Yeah. I think Wicked said he wanted to see a Trojan horse.
Among other things, yes.
Black Flag said he wanted to see the woman that led to the big wooden horse, apparently.
One of the guys at work said the same thing. He's like, I'd like to see the Battle of Troy. I'm like, you realize that was like a decade or something, right? He was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, man.
Yeah, that wasn't a short fight.
I do want to see, I mentioned this one to Rick via Twitter. I want to see Hannibal march the elephants through the mountain passes.
Just watch the Romans like shit themselves because the elephants come over. They're like, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. What the hell is that?
Right?
I thought about Caesar crossing the Rubicon. I'm like, it's just a dude walking across a stream.
I mean, that's like watching Washington cross the Delaware.
It's so funny that you say that because that's really, if you read the histories, that's also kind of, they're like, and we're gonna cross the river. Okay. Just,
well, that was a waste of a time jump. Awesome.
Yeah, I don't really have any other ones. I mean, there's moments like I'd like to be in the Renaissance to see the troubadours travel across Europe, but that's not necessarily.
I take issue with infested potatoes comment.
What did he say?
Oppenheimer realizing what they made.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he knew what he was working on.
Didn't they all not like the fact that they were working on it, kind of thing? But
well, yeah, and then like the what is it, Enola? Yeah, the Enola Gay after dropping the bomb. Like, well, I mean, even going like taking a step back from there and going back to like Truman, like his like realizing exactly what it was because he had been kept in the dark for so long.
Well, I mean, it wasn't like they were working on a toaster.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like Truman's reaction was probably even more because, like, who was there? Was it FDR? Was at that time? Was that because basically he hated Truman, and so he didn't tell him anything. And then they were like, "Oh yeah, let's drop the bomb," and he's like, "Okay," like he had no idea what was going, and then yeah,
oh
yeah,
well, drop another one.
Oh God! Oh no!
Can't put Genie back in the bottle.
Yeah. Nope. Faragog, I would definitely want to be the person. I would love to see that, but I'd also love to be like the teacher of Einstein who said he wouldn't amount to anything,
Oh God.
realizing that he's basically the
Realizing that
most
you're
intelligent
wrong.
man. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
The destruction of the Berlin Wall. I actually did see that. It wasn't that entertaining.
I think that as much of the history, like the moments in history that we talk about, a lot of it is built up in the history books as being this momentous occasion, but they may not be as big as what they come across. I mean, obviously, nuclear bomb is going to be pretty big, but I don't know. Some of the different events, it just always makes you wonder. It was big for the time.
It was big for the time, yeah.
For us to actually go
I mean-
back and see Hannibal march elephants through, I mean, that's really impressive, but at the same time, is it maybe one or two elephants?
Watching Newton discover gravity.
I mean, did he? Oh, gosh, the
Hey.
apple falling on his head, supposedly.
Funk.
Hey, this is a thing. Oh God, gravity. That'll come up later. Never mind. Okay.
Yep. Okay, we should wrap this one up so we can get warmed up for that one. Do you guys have any last minute additions?
Tesla? Oh, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I want to change all of my answers to just hanging out with Tesla.
Oh, God.
Really? Do you
Oh,
want to
my
hang out?
God.
Why would you want to hang out with him?
The dude's a genius.
Yeah, but there's a lot of other
He was
geniuses out there that are not that insane.
He invented Wi-Fi. Death rays. Hey, by the way,
Death rays.
Wait, what do you mean a death ray? Death ray.
Yes.
It was a slow weekend, so I just threw that up in the corner. If y'all want to buy like one, I could probably do that again. Cool.
Mhm.
Check out this, alternating current. This is my jam. It's like what?
Make the elephant stand on a metal plate. That's not going to go bad.
Oh gosh.
Get us
Oh
out of here.
gosh.
This will never end.
Blue, do you have any other last minute ones?
I do not.
Okay, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys for joining us. I don't know what just happened, to be honest, but it's over with.
Science.
And yes, history, science, a little bit of music, a little bit of crazy. And we are done with top 3. Welcome to 2020, all of you beautiful people. And we will see you next week with something. I don't know what we're doing yet, but until next time, everybody loves a list.
Yay!
And I may have totally forgotten my catchphrase until the very end there.
This is fine.
So I had to stall.
It's for dramatic effect.
Yes.
Sometimes it's the words you don't say.
There's a lot of those. Hey, you changed the background. Good job, Blue.
Yay! I
God.
remembered.
No, I'm not talking about you. Wait, no, I am talking about you. I'm sorry.
Dino? Dino's
No,
got
I
a
was looking at the graphic. I was like, oh God.
wormhole. Dino.
Oh God, here we go. All right, so
Do you want me to play Rick's contribution to the show?
oh Jesus.
Yes, please. I want to hear.
Let me see if I can let me make sure I get the right.
Did you add dramatic music?
I did not add I didn't add anything because it's just, it's good by itself.
Okay then.
Okay, then. Let me know.
You may have heard the
wanna
whispers
preface
of
this, I was
guardians
100%
gathering in the
sober.
shadows, exploring the
Yes.
mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search, focus that fire. And so we come together. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat.
Oh my god.
You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the
Oh dear God.
Oh, the crescendo. Oh,
Where is your god now, wicked?
oh
I'm clipping this.
my god. Oh, that needs to be a thing.
I told Rick, I'm like, this is the new default. Like,
Oh my gosh.
And published.
And from
and
there,
published.
what's really funny is like you're gonna have this really huge build up and then just the normal load in music.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That is a thing that exists now.
Oh my gosh. You sound like Sloth Upset from DDU. That's hilarious.
Oh, God. Your son will die.
That's Julie's favorite part. Not gonna lie. That is her favorite.
That's actually an impersonation that I just jammed in the middle of that.
I think you told me that at one point. She just, I don't know. She just dies laughing every time she watches it.
It's Brian Blessed playing the Hawk King from Flash Gordon, the 80s movie.
Oh, God.
Right.
Oh, God.
And that is 100%. That one line is just a Brian Blessed imitation.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man.
All right.
All right, you guys ready?
Okay. You know, I'm going to like completely open the floodgates for the intro, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
do it.
Okay. Just say go when you're ready. Hit it.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on January 3rd, 2020, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the I just can't talk. The shenanigans of time travel. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the person girding her loins for what is about to come, green-eyed music lover. Because this is gonna get crazy, y'all.
And just fair warning, this is going to be one of the show weeks that is explicit. So, fair warning if you didn't catch that on the file. Because last but definitely not least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend ManAtArms. Rick, ManAtArms, I don't know what you want us to call you, but how are you doing?
What the fuck does girded mean?
It means that I'm bracing myself for impact.
And why are loins involved?
Because it's you, sexy man.
Oh.
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 How are you doing?
How you doing? By the way, this man, very, very charming. Very, very smooth talker. We could get in a lot of trouble.
Rick is the preferred nomenclature because ManAtArms is a mouthful.
Yes, it is. Hi, Rick.
Oh, phrasing. Never mind. Continue. My bad. Totally unintentional.
So, usual introductory question for those who might not know who you are, the few and far between. Where can we find you out on the internet?
The easiest place to find me is on Twitter. It's man_at_arms2112. Do not enable alerts. If you follow me, your phone will go dead.
He is on Twitter a lot.
I have many GIF wars.
GIF wars.
There was a battle here. I'm trolling the Prime Minister of Australia right now. So I mean, that's what happens.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
From multiple accounts, just in case one gets banned.
Oh my gosh. Wait, you have more than one account?
No, I actually just used the podcast account because I'm like, if that one gets banned, I'll just make another one. That's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Well, Green, you wanna take over for interviewing him?
I don't know. I'm a little
interrogating
scared.
him.
Interrogating him.
It's fine. Come.
Okay. We talk.
Give me your hand.
Yes. Rick, What is your favorite story from Destiny?
Okay, that's not an easy question.
Sorry.
Answer or thing. It used to be Shin Malfer, but they finished that one, and I was disappointed. So we're gonna forget that ever happened and that I said that.
Okay.
It's always revolved around the Vex, but specifically Kabir has always. I've just always had an affection for the character, even though it's a very small story and a very small role. With the whole like noble sacrifice and making the Aegis out of his light at the end because he was dying because he drank saltwater Vex goop. And
Vex scoop is appropriate.
I just want to, it's just like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna make a shield. Okay, then you make a shield. It was like he rolled a 20 on a dice in a D&D game. It was like, this is not a
That's so accurate.
Mhm.
How do you make a shield? I don't. He rolled a 20, bro. He made a shield. We don't
Yeah,
know
they
how.
tried.
He rolled a 20. He rolled a 20. Shield exists. Deal with it.
Have you read the newest stuff about Pahanan or not Pahanan, but Praedyth? And oh my
Oh no,
gosh.
that's gonna come up. Don't worry
Him,
about it.
Don't worry
MacGyver,
about it. That's gonna come
everything.
out.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm
It's
sure.
coming out.
Oh my gosh. All right. So if the Vex is your kind of favorite thing, is there like did you just kind of dive into lore, or was there some like entry level thing that got you into like looking into the
No,
story
it was
more? Was it
honestly, it was. I really was. I followed all of the other, the surface storylines, and
Mhm.
I understood the Hive. They were easy-ish at the time. The Cabal were really black and white, so there was no challenge there. And I was just like, I don't understand what the Vex are on about. So literally, I'm like, okay, explain Vex in a Google
Mhm.
search, and like, I can't remember if it was Bife or Mylan popped up, and that just started my whole interest with the Vex, and because I know way too much about time travel, it's a weird thing I have. I know way too much about time. So immediately I was like, oh, no, this is bad. This is bad.
This is bad.
Mhm.
This is, oh no, okay. This is fine.
I know. Oh my gosh.
It's not fine.
It's not fine.
None of this is fine.
I need more bourbon. We're not even started on the time travel stuff yet, and I'm already like needing a little bit more. The next question is normally what class do you play? But I already know that. So does the rest of the world because Titan.
I have been known to tighten a bit.
Yes. But when we played together, we did
exclusively.
We did Iron Banner together, and you did not play a Titan because we had raised money. And you played, what was it? Was it a hunter or was it a warlock?
Both. I wouldn't say that I actually played those.
Well, you attempted.
I mean, I signed in as one.
You looked pretty for a little while.
I guess.
I signed in as one.
Oh, I can turn invisible. Cool.
Yeah, it's handy sometimes.
How I do that? Can I shade step? Yes. How I do this?
I mean, we
And
can't really shade step as much anymore, but
that was a horrible. But I am a top tree striker Titan in all game modes, which is why I am not good in a raid.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you shoulder charging everything? I don't understand what you mean.
I've always wondered, what did you just start on that day one and you just stuck to it? Like, is that your thing, or did you come to it?
No, I was a blade dancer.
Oh, really?
I got into Destiny. My stepson and I used to share an account because I had to help him. He played solo. I had to help him get through the really difficult parts because I'm an old school Halo player. I'm like, here, give me the sticks. Watch this kid. Oh my God. Yeah, yes, I am a death machine. So I wasn't allowed to play Titan because that was his character.
Mm-hmm.
And Warlock was right out.
So, I mean, floofing.
Hunter sounds cool, and then it wasn't at all advertised as the character description described it. It's like, you are a stealthy sharpshooter. No, we have none of this. This does not exist. So I was a blade dancer way past the age of reason. Like they had nerfed that into oblivion, and I was still running through the crucible as a blade dancer.
I mean, you could still do work if you had decent maneuverability, but
I did. It was just like I got Titan Smash one day, and I'm like, you know what? I want to see what that's like.
mm-hmm.
So I made a Titan, and I've been a Titan ever since. I'm like, I've been doing this wrong. This is not my playstyle. Which Blade, in all honesty, Blade was a very aggressive hunter. Like you play a Blade very much the same way you play a Titan in D1, because you're in someone's face constantly.
I mean, it's true. It's just, I don't know.
Or you can
I'm
do a
still
super
mad.
invisible, sneaky thing and be hated and get accused of cheating.
Be hated.
The invisible sneaky thing. What are you talking about?
Blade
Okay,
oh
so-
yeah.
Okay. So let me tell you a story. This is not my first gamer tag. So there was a build you could do in D1 that I would do, and I still do this now. I get pissed off, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna use XYZ gun, and then I'll post it. It's like a 25 kill match. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back to playing relaxed now. So when I was a Blade and it happened, you could make an invisibility build, and you could combine it with Kepri's Sting.
Oh, right.
So basically, you could just kneel and be invisible all the time. But I used to do that with a Wormwood and the Last Word.
Oh, God.
Yes. So I was hated, and I got reported for cheating a lot because people would just die to this invisible person that was not there a second ago.
Mhm.
This dude's a hack. How do you hack an Xbox?
Very
it was
carefully.
it was very toxic. It was very toxic.
I remember doing that a little bit on what was the Mercury map that had B up on like a high level where you had to climb up a ramp.
Oh, that
And then-
was Vertigo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would do that there because there are a lot of like I love multi-tier levels. The Titan map right now where B is also up on a little platform is my favorite one because people don't pay attention to the fact that the radar is just slightly red or really red. They just see that you're in the vicinity and they don't know where you're coming from. Right. Anyway. I don't have really a crazy question because I have a feeling the episode is just going to be kind of crazy.
Oh, okay.
So, Blue, special announcement?
We don't really have any big special announcements. We do. Well, I guess we kind of do. I
What this is?
Well, yes. I guess. Yeah. I guess that's a special announcement too. Two then. I guess. The first one is the one that I was thinking of is that we actually had someone join the team. You guys will know her as Mochi Llama. She's going to be helping with the Lore Network website and kind of just coordinating a lot of the outreach over there, making sure like getting schedules kind of started over there. And she is going to be kind of helping with the Twitter for that whole side of things. So we're hoping to kind of build that out and get some stuff started over there. If you're not already following the Lore Network either on Twitter or the website itself, I really encourage you to kind of go give it a glance and go check it out. The other thing is, as Green said, is this entire thing. We've done a few Let's Chats in the past. I think this is actually technically the 7th one that we've done. But what we're going to start doing is we're going to start doing these the first week of every month to kind of give us not necessarily a break from lore, because you'll see, well, this one will kind of be here, but we're going to dovetail back into Destiny lore. But what it also gives us is a chance to kind of really just take our time and kind of talk about stuff that's not necessarily lore. It gives us a little bit of a breathing space every month. And also it will give us some time to, if there's something going on with the Lore Network, we have a space to kind of announce that here as well. And I don't know, Green. That was a terrible announcement, but do you
I
have anything else for
mean,
me?
it works. It works. I mean, it's going to be a little bit, not necessarily less structured, but less scholarly in some ways. More of a debate of topics rather than us teaching exactly everything going on. Anyway, standard intro notes,
Yep. Yeah.
standard
Sorry. Yeah.
intro.
So, I mean, and basically, this is going to be a pretty good example of exactly what that's going to be because we're going to be talking about time travel and the shenanigans. And, as Rick had mentioned, it's going to get back to Destiny because there is going to be components that we use Destiny as an example. So, but enough with our chattering and my terrible special announcements. We're going to run through a couple of quick housekeeping notes and then we'll get right into it. So I don't know where's the best way to start with this one other than I guess really kind of talking about just the idea of time travel as a trope, really. And Green, I don't know if you wanted to talk about that or if you wanted me to kind of jump into it or how you would like
I mean, the
best go
idea
that
of
way.
being able to go back and affect a terrible event or a positive event and see something or do something has been around for a long time. Like every series in the 90s, like this is a terrible example, but every series in the 90s, including things like Hercules and Xena, did a time travel trope episode,
Mm-hmm.
which it's just one of those kind of standard what would happen. It's a nice little thought experiment to dive into, but I think that besides the idea of the trope, beyond that, it's been a thought experiment not only in pop culture, obviously, but also through physics itself and science and mathematics and everybody diving into what is time, trying to define it, because that's really ultimately where we kind of boil down to. You don't just have the idea of the trope of, hey, I go back and I can be my own dad. Well, yeah, that's awkward and you shouldn't do that. But the concept of time itself, can it even be affected in that way? Or is that just a fanciful idea?
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you how we ended up having this conversation, and this might get things rolling because I have a diatribe. So the reason I asked to come on and do this was when The Undying Mind came out.
Mhm.
This topic kept threatening to come out on our podcast, and I would stop it and I go, "This is not the right format or show to have this conversation because I will completely lose my mind." We just kind of and I'm glad we just move on. Well, Pens was there. I was like, Pens, I'll tell you what, I'll ask Green and Blue if I can go on you guys' show and unload, so to speak. So this is where all this stemmed from initially. So with me, when you're talking about time travel and storytelling, um, I've had this conversation for literally like 2 decades. So I can touch all the bases and why I have a problem with time travel and storytelling fairly quickly too. Like
Okay.
I can shoot for 7 minutes, I think. But we're gonna tell a story. It's an analogy. I call this Time Cop, not the
Okay.
crap Jean Claude Van Damme movie. This is my Time Cop. My Time Cop is much better written because
And
that movie's
7 minutes
horrible.
long.
Time is a construct, so we'll see how it
Uh-huh. Well done. Well done.
Okay, so in stories, be it movies, be it cinema, be it video games, basically, we're going to call our protagonist Time Cop. It all involves around somebody going back in time and trying to change an event that went horribly wrong. So in my story, Time Cop is rushing into an apartment building. He has partial information and he is trying to stop a bad guy who is assembling the detonator to a bomb. But he doesn't know the exact room he's in. He knows he's either in room A or room B of this apartment complex. So Time Cop goes through door A. It's the wrong door. He quickly spins around. He hears the bomb go off. Disaster has occurred. Okay. It doesn't matter for the story what happens after the bomb goes off, whether he catches the guy or not. This is immaterial. Years go down the road. Time passes. He has the opportunity to go back in time and influence his past self to get him to go into door B. So Time Cop goes, and in a movie or in a video game, he influences his past self to go into door B. Time Cop kicks open the door. He tackles the bad guy and saves the day. So here's where my problem starts in.
But there's lots of questions. Like if he goes back and he dies, then his future self can't come back again. But if he goes back as future self and gets rid of the thing, and then the this is why I need to drink.
Just drink. It's a journey.
Okay.
Okay. The first problem you have with this, Jesus Christ, you derailed me. Damn you.
I'm sorry.
In a story, this is how it works. So you had event 1, which was bad. Then you change it to event 2, and you get the outcome that you want. And there is much rejoicing and happy day. Anyone who's ever been in a tactical situation, when he goes through door B, yeah, he kicks open the door, but it's just not, he just doesn't rush in and save the day. He might not have enough leg strength. He has to kick the door a few times to get the door open, and the bomb goes off. He could kick the door open. The frame of the door splinters, snags his shirt. He could trip on a banana peel that the bad guy was eating and slip and fall. He could actually just rush in, tackle the bad guy, but the bad guy kicks his ass and sets off the bomb anyway.
Right.
There's an infinite number of things that happen once he goes through door B, and he can't change it again. So that's the first problem. So we're doing all this under the pretense that time is changeable. Otherwise, there would be no point in playing the game. So I want to tell the story of Time Bug now.
Wait, we went from Time Cop to Time Bug?
Time Bug. Time Bug will
Like
reveal his
Herbie?
character shortly. No, just go with me.
Okay.
So in order for let's say Time Cop's plan to get his past self to go into door B was he was going to leave himself a sticky note and go, dude, it's door B. Go into that one. Okay, well, he comes out of his portal or his machine or whatever. He goes to his car where he knows that it's parked. And his plan is, well, I'm going to go to where I know I'm going to be, leave myself a sticky note, and then put my car right back so it's like it's never moved and nobody will notice. So while he's driving to his destination, he hits a bug. And this bug dies on the windshield of his car. So Time Bug is dead. The problem is, a few days from that moment, Time Bug's future was he was supposed to get eaten by, we're going to call this character Time Frog.
Yeah, butterfly effect.
Oh, this is so much better than Ashton Kutcher. Hold on. So the bug's destiny was to be eaten by this frog. So 2 weeks down the road, the frog is there, but there's no bug. So the frog goes somewhere else and finds another bug because the frog has to eat. So now months go by. Time Frog is just chilling on, it's a nice sunny Sunday morning on a step. Grandma comes out to check on her puppy. She steps on the frog. She breaks her hip. She has to go to the hospital. All these medical workers have to work on her now. Her family has to take care of her. And dozens, if not hundreds of people's lives, their future, their intended future that was going to transpire, has been changed irreparably because we killed one bug on the way to go just drop off a sticky note. Now, it's going to make sense in about 2 minutes, I swear to God.
Okay.
When he gets in his car and he drives to his destination, he is occupying space, the space the size of a car. So every intersection he gets to, every red light he's in, the person that would have been in his spot is behind him. So all of the people he comes into contact with in traffic, their days are thrown off just by milliseconds, which really doesn't seem like a big deal. Except if you've ever been in a car wreck, because anybody who's ever been in a car accident, the first thing you think of once your head clears and your heart stops racing is, If I wouldn't have forgotten my keys and went back in the house, then I would have left 30 seconds earlier. I wouldn't even have been at that intersection. This guy wouldn't have hit me, or if I wouldn't have stopped to get a cheeseburger. And all the events from the time you left your house to the time you were in your car wreck go through your mind. It was like, damn it, like 2 seconds difference would change me having my car wrecked right now and I have to waste my day waiting for somebody to do this and deal with insurance, blah, 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 blah. So with Time Cop driving down the road, he has thrown off the future that was going to occur if he had not been there. He hasn't hit anybody, hasn't touched anybody. He's just thrown off the synchronicity of thousands of lives, because every person that he throws out of sync with that timeline is now out of sync perpetually. And everyone they come in contact, it's not happening the same way. So just by existing in the past and interfering with it in a really not too obstructive way, he's already destroyed the known universe, because now we're living in a timeline where we don't know what's going to happen because everything has changed. This is why I hate time travel and story. Scoob, what is wrong? The puppy. I made my puppy sad.
Yeah,
Even
you
my
did make
puppy
the
is
puppy
upset with
sad.
this.
So it's the ripple effect.
It's synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hold on, I'll be back.
Ute. So with that, going into the idea of kind of the affecting time in the past and everything like that, Blue,
Mhm.
how do we want to go back into the actual concept of time?
Well, hold on.
Oh,
The dog interrupted the crescendo. I'm sorry.
oh, okay.
So when you talk about the conversation we're having right now, the three of us,
Mm-hmm.
our beginning point is the Big Bang.
Right.
So when all matter in the universe was created, every particle, every piece of matter in the universe went and expanded.
Mhm.
The events in our real life that have us having this conversation, everything in our lives in this universe was in a specific place at a specific time in the universe. That's massive. That's what the Vex calculate all of the time.
Mhm.
'Cause
Which
they're
is
trying
why
to
they
determine
require,
an outcome.
yeah, which is why they're requiring world computers.
Mm-hmm.
So they're literally trying to calculate all of the little things. Because, like I just illustrated in a very long, drawn out, and surreptitious story, how complicated meddling with time is.
Right. And
Right.
I think the other thing too that a lot of times people forget is that our concept of time is ultimately a theory.
Mm-hmm.
There is no, so like I have on the notes I was going to talk about the history of like the concept of time. There's this really really good book that I read while we were in college, or while I was in college, for one of our classes. It's Time and Psychological Explanation by Dr. Brent Slife. It was published back in 1993, and he presents this idea of the history of the concept of time. And he basically points out that the idea of what we refer to as standard time was actually not a concept up until 1883. So until 1883, the reason why standardized time came into existence is actually in order to standardize railroad schedules. Up until this point, the main mode of transportation for pretty much everywhere was horse and carriage, or just horses. So what this would mean is that each individual town or each individual city could maintain or keep their own time in their own time frames without impacting negatively anything around them. But with the introduction of the connections that the much quicker railroad system provided, this also required pretty much all of humanity to adopt a uniform construct of time. And so we came up with this idea of standard time. And so this also then kind of brought into play the idea of what's a concept called linear time. And linear time is one of those it's what's referred to as a pre-theoretical construct. It's a construct of our understanding of how the passage of time as a construct is. We view things in linear time. It's defined, and linear time is defined as a metaphysical assumption that time flows like a line, independently of the events that it supposedly contains. This is also where you get the idea of dimensions of time, past, present, and future. And the way that those dimensions are organized within the theory of linear time is that it is in a linear sequence. You have the past that then goes to the present and then goes to the future. So this inherently places a primacy on the concept of the past, because as the past occurs first, that forces the dimensions of the present and the future to remain consistent with it. So, and this is why we see the ideas of things such as causality, and then you see a really close alliance with causality and time. With an example of, so you have linear time, which is flowing forward, which is presenting this causality. There's also a theory called retrocausality, which is where it flows backwards, where the future influences the present, which influences the past. So there's a lot of these concepts of how this all works. And again, going back to the concept of standard time kind of led to this idea. And linear time has always been there. It's always been an assumption because we exist in a linear mode. Like our existence.
It's observable.
Well, that's what I mean. Is like when we observe things, it goes in one direction. So our concept of the passage of time is in this linear mode. But the thing is that doesn't necessarily equate. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only way it passes. So, and the intriguing thing is from a psychological standpoint, which is where this particular book is coming from, is the author, Dr. Slife, is actually looking at how us as individuals, this idea of causality and linear time actually promotes the idea of individuality. As you see the invention of standard time and the solidification of the concept of linear time within most of the hard sciences, you also see a rise in a lot of individual components within the social psychological makeup. And so when you look at how we reinterpret and reconstruct our memory, this is where it actually, you can see where that process in the present makes a point of showing that it would be much more accurate to say that the present causes meaning of the past rather than stating the past causing meaning of the present. So this entire book is presenting the idea that we, by existing in the present, actually are casting a meaning onto the past that if we didn't exist, wouldn't be there, which it's a really basic concept when you start thinking about it, but it's one of those concepts that as a hard scientist, especially with empiricism, a lot of people just take it for granted that everyone assumes that this is the way that is. It's like the concept of gravity. Gravity is just assumed to exist. Well, we all know once we start sitting down and start talking about gravity, that gravity is not, there's not a consistency to it. It might exist, but the effects of it are different depending on where you are located, what time you're observing it, how you're observing it, all this other stuff. Relative. It is time, and time is relative too. The passage of time is relative.
But that's the whole beauty of both gravity and time itself, as they are both in some ways not necessarily forces like gravity is. Gravity is a force that's dependent on the mass of the item being affected, right? Like it's that whole idea.
It's a construct. It's a construct.
Yes,
it's a construct to explain. No, exactly. It's a construct to explain something that we are observing, and the idea of like, and so the presentation. Let me see if I could find this paragraph real quick because he presents it really funny actually. His introduction is talking about how when he was growing up. Here, let me see. Yeah, so he says, quote, "When I was growing up, few political or even economic issues seemed to disturb the serenity of our small farming community. One issue, though, clearly sticks out in my mind. The farmers of our town were so concerned that they would have fought a war over it if they could. Congress was again debating the merits of daylight saving time. The Arab oil embargo was in full swing, and research had hinted at the possibility of widespread energy savings. All we had to do was turn our clocks up 1 hour. Nevertheless, the people of our community found this proposal positively abhorrent. I heard things like they have no right to fool around with God's time, and they might say it's 3 o'clock, but my cows and I will know that it's really 2 o'clock. This was my first exposure of the concretization of time. The farmers in my community had concretized one organization of events as if it were the organization of event. And then that's end quote. That's where he goes off and talks about how the standard time was invented in 1883. But then he goes further and he says, we had invented this standard concept in 1883, and it had not been that long ago in the scope of things, and we have already adopted it to the point where you have the concept of, oh, this is God's time. Like, you can't, like, humans are creatures of habit and are creatures of very repetitive habit. Like, once you start doing stuff like that,
look at metric system versus imperial system.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
No.
I deny the metric system on its face.
Exactly. Would they? Okay.
On this hill.
Yes, and that's the agreement that we all have about how time works, is how everybody agrees just because it's been standardized. But you're talking about the idea of standard time being the organization of it, right?
Correct. It ties into Einstein's thing about time being an illusion, not a constant.
Well, it was one of the different ideas behind time is that it is the perception.
Yes.
It's like a Schrodinger's cat type thing in some ways.
Unless you're observing it arguably doesn't you can't prove that it exists without observing it, which that ties into a whole other issue of empiricism as a whole. But yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So how do we tie this into the concepts of time, and going back to Rick's story of if we are able to affect the past,
right? And I think
in some ways,
so. I think the easy way, right? I think the easy way to do that is to kind of point out the popular theories and models that you see both in popular science or popular culture, and then also actual science, like physics. And so those, usually the big three that I've kind of always seen is the concept of what's called a fixed timeline, the concept of a dynamic timeline, and then my ever favorite one of the multiverse. You also have the Tipler cylinder, which is like a really weird one.
This is math. We don't need to talk about that.
Oh God. I tried to read it and I was like, I don't like this anymore.
All you need to know is that Stephen Hawking made a proof that discredited it.
Did he really? The infinite cylinder has gotten disproven?
It's not that the math it's just math. This is theoretical physics.
Right.
The math makes sense, but you couldn't actually make it real in real life.
Okay, yeah. Because
it's just math.
And then you also have black holes, which is another kind of issue of that proves the illusion of time.
It's just the bending of the perception, right? The fact that you'll never reach the center, supposedly.
Yes, supposedly. You're also not going to survive.
Doesn't matter.
Also, the whole time distortion because of gravity.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, we'll get to that.
That's just because gravity and time are intertwined. But yes.
Mm-hmm.
Cosmic strings. That's always a fun one. That's one of the newer ones.
Yeah, cosmic strings is one of the newer ones. It's that
math. That's.
There's actually a really good book that I read in high school about cosmic strings. That's easy enough for it's by Brian Greene.
I can sum up cosmic strings very simply. It's the Dark Tower. There's cracks in time. That could be a thing.
Kind of.
There's little cracks and ice cubes and things. It's
a lot of math and a lot of multiple dimensions.
You can't write a blockbuster movie on cosmic strings. It's no.
No.
You totally could. I want to see somebody do it.
Nobody wants to see that.
Yes, they do.
There are people way smarter than us right now who have never been on a date with
This is
calculators
true.
working on that right now for some reason.
For some reason.
We don't know what that reason is. But occasionally
Uh.
they get pieces of paper that say, congratulations, you did math.
Congratulations.
So,
If I've offended any physicists, oh well.
Oh wow, is that what you said?
Oh, well. I mean, you're listening to this show. You're probably already in the wrong place, so it's fine.
To tie it into so like, and often you have different presentations of these theories, right? So you have like the one-way travel to the future, where you see, or one-way travel, so either back to the past where you have a one-way trip. The one that comes to mind immediately for me was 12 Monkeys. You can travel back to the past, but you can't go back to the future, really. You also, I think Interstellar had a bit of it. I haven't seen Interstellar, but that was the example that a lot of people had.
Tesseracts.
There's actually a lot of really good. Well, there's tesseracts. There's black hole gravity distortion. Well, not even just gravity distortion in general. Not even black hole gravity distortion, but that is a part of it. There's a lot of very good science in Interstellar. So
Okay.
yeah, you should probably.
Yeah,
it's a long movie.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that I have on my list, and I just haven't gotten around to it. Another
Watch it a few times.
a few times. Okay, awesome. Then you can have like things that you see with like A Wrinkle in Time, which is where you move through things called higher dimensions to kind of hop. You have the space-time vortex, which Doctor Who is infamous for with the TARDIS. You have the what's called the instantaneous jump, which is made famous with the Back to the Future series. Time traveling while standing still, which is time machine, and Harry Potter. I guess I think it's the what's the little hourglass thing that happened.
Was that lovely Christopher Reeve movie, Somewhere in Time. He just
No.
time traveled, no reason.
Not the Superman version.
No, he just like he woke up in a hotel and it's like, congratulations, you're 100 years in the past. We don't know why.
That's like
And
that's
Enjoy the next hour and 15 minutes.
a Yankee
that
in
Harry
King
Potter
Arthur's
thing is-
court.
It's Time Turner.
Oh, okay. Time Turner. And then there's technically slow travel, which is I still don't really understand why that just sounds like life. Faster than light, which is
Well, that's the fairy tale one where you go in and you're gone.
yeah, it's
Life moves
Rip
past you a lot
Van Winkle. Pretty much is like you fall asleep and you wake up like 500 years in the future or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You have Faster Than Life, which is going to be Superman, Flash, Star Trek, Timescape, and then you have random ones like Time Cop, because you can get a rocket sled, and then also
Is Time Cop that much different than the Back to the Future car?
I thought the
Back to
rocket
the
sled
Future had better science.
Yeah, rocket sled just kind of happened. Back
Does
to the
it
Future
punch you
actually.
through?
Yeah, it was
kinda
something weird. And then like the time, well, and then also you have like Terminator with the time displacement equipment and stuff, like the little bubble.
Interesting.
Oh, I like that. Drunken Guardian in chat. That's a good one. Example of slow travel would be like in Doctor Who, Amy's DNA being put into the box to be opened in the future by her childhood selfie touch. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I like this.
And then, of course, we get to the fun problems, with the biggest one being the most known being the grandfather paradox, which is
Right.
always fun.
Okay.
What other problems?
But there's a lot. I mean, synchronicity being a problem. That's the whole thing where if you exist, just by simply existing, you are disturbing the synchronicity of that time space. Like,
right.
Which is what Rick was talking about, like your car, like you are displacing things that arguably should not be displaced if you're gonna in this. There's certain theories that will result in certain problems, and there are other theories that have been made in order to respond. So like a fixed timeline, first off, you're not going to have paradoxes because basically, and we'll get into this probably with the advanced episode a little bit, but like a fixed timeline has in itself an inherent defense against the grandfather paradox, whereas the dynamic timeline, that's where you're going to see a lot of paradoxes because the dynamic timeline is actually able to be fluidly changed. And then you have multiverses, which just are, that just hurts my head. Like multiverses, just like if you start thinking about multiverses too much, I can't help but get a headache because it's yeah.
Cool.
I actually got my head around those, so we'll be fine.
Okay, cool. But yeah,
I need more booze.
I need more booze.
and possibly edibles. It's fine.
No, I can't do that right now. Anyway, I would if I ever. No, there's no way I could do this.
I love how she's like, she started and she's like, nope.
I'm just gonna say that I could never do this show high, ever.
Eyes up, Guardian.
Ever. It would be bad. Anyway,
I couldn't
should
because
we?
I'd have already ordered pizza and taken a nap.
Should we start wrapping up? Just since we kind of named the concepts of it, Rick, did you have something else you wanted to add to
No.
Blue's idea before we?
Because this is going to get murky.
Oh yeah. All right, Blue.
We should bail out as quickly as possible.
Let's
So
do it.
let's do an intro session shout outs real quick, and then we can jump right into the advanced session. So for this round of shout outs, Rick, you want to lead the charge?
I need Jugs. And just Jugs is just my point of contact. I have to find his Twitter. I'll put it in the notes. We have a friend, it's one of our Australian buddies, Jugzilla. I do not make excuses or apologize for his handle.
When you
Jugs.
said
I was right there with you, Green. I'm like, all right, I don't know where this is going, but
I didn't name him, but Jugs was nice enough today on Twitter because really the only thing, because Australia is on fire.
Yeah.
So this isn't really a shout out for Jugs, but I'm going to put his Twitter in the notes somewhere once I find it, because he linked all of the ways if you wanted to help monetarily, which is what the people of Australia really need to support the firefighters, and did a huge thread on Twitter today.
Good.
Because the country's on fire.
like the whole thing is
The
on
whole thing.
fire. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So yeah,
So weird shout out, but necessary.
yes, very much so.
And
Green
a
had-
horrible gamer tag, but you know.
and a horrible gamer tag.
Yeah.
Green, what about you?
My shout outs is to everybody in live chat this week. You guys are hopping for one, and a specific shout out to Barely a Destiny Show who hopped in here. Hi, Zanny. I believe that Zanny has been on the show, and Slapshot Scott and I talk quite a bit on the Twitters. But yeah, those guys, go hit those guys up if you haven't heard their show before. Barely a Destiny Show. It's pretty funny. It's just a lot of
It's good.
it's a lot of guys just talking around about all sorts of different things. There's some like direction, but it's just mostly a lot of fun. But that one, and then I am scheduled, and I'm trying to look it up while I'm talking. I'm scheduled to be on a podcast on Karma's Revenge Show podcast next Thursday is when we're recording it. I don't know when they're going to release it, but I'll be doing that next Thursday on the 9th. Hello, future people.
Cool.
Look,
And
I'll put out that.
yes, awesome. And then we'll definitely get if you want to give me links to it, I can get them in the show notes as well. A big shout out to, we had a new Podbean patron join the ranks, Lethargic Hades. So we really appreciate that. And then I also saw right before we jumped on that we had another person who was very generous and gave our Discord server a boost.
Yeah.
Which is really actually a really cool thing that Discord does, it actually helps us, because what it does is if you get a certain amount of people who it's called boosting, they actually upgrade the audio quality of Discord for the phone calls, so which is what we use to record the podcast. So that was a really I just went blank. Who was it? It was
It's an admin.
Taboo Emu. So really big thank you for that. We really appreciate that. So, but yeah, so basically that's all I got. And I know Green made me promise that I was going to have a sign out, but I forgot to get it ready. So bye.
The sign out should just be the giant sigh that happens after.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep that in. I'm just bye. I'm done.
Wunderbar.
Wunderbar. Okay. I'm gonna go piss real quick.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yep. Be right back.
Oh man.
Aha! I learned how to do something. Excellent. Okay, I have to pee.
Okay.
Hold please.
Yeah, I was reading the Drunken. I was reading about that today, because I know the BBC was doing a really big push on their pod. They do the, I think it's 3 times a day podcast for their just like updates and stuff. And they had two of the 3 were pretty much solely dedicated to what was going on down there. So yeah, it's been 3 months, no, 4 months now.
Since what?
Australia. I think it's like
gosh.
September was when it started.
The thing that drives me crazy about it is the fact that their bad season, apparently, for fire in Australia isn't until mid-January. Like that's when the weather is the worst. So
fires, yeah.
it's so bad down there right now.
My problem was I was looking at the comparison to everything else that has happened this year, like as far as like fires and stuff, and like comparably, it's just like there is no comparison.
The
like
fire,
showing
the size of it's the size of Belgium.
Well, they showed a chart of like the height of the flames. It's higher than the Sydney Opera House, which was just mind-boggling to me. But then they also were talking about how it's hectaacres, I think it's supposed to be like. But they basically were like, oh yeah, so like the rainforest was 900,000, and I think the thing that I was like, it was like nearly 2 million. It was like just like ridiculously different. Like it was just like I was like, holy shit! Like, I mean, it's again one of those things that like I knew it was not good. Did not realize the full scope of that. Here, let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, they did. Let me pull it up real quick.
Oh, goodness. In
Sydney today is going to hit 116 degrees.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah, they said the average across the whole of the country is like 105 or something. It's fucking ridiculous.
Literally fucking hell right now.
500 million animals.
4 million.
Island.
Yeah, 500. Yeah. 4 million hectares have burned in New South Wales since July 1st, whereas the 2019 Amazon fires burned an estimated 900,000. So I'm like, wow, what? Like that's Jesus.
Is there any sort of like? Is there any response at this point? I mean, I know that everyone's pissed at the fucking prime minister for good reason.
Okay,
but
and I mean, there is that, but the response is often because, like, I think, yeah, Jugs actually has it. Like, the thing is like all the volunteers. Well, first off, like I think Green, you had said it. Like their burn season's not usually full swing until January, and so their fire brigades, I guess is the best way to say it, are mostly volunteers, and they just they're I mean, they usually go and they don't get paid, and that's where I think a lot of my understanding is that's where a lot of the frustration is because they don't get paid and they're losing their jobs because the businesses still have to be open, but they don't have people because the people are busy putting out fires to protect their homes. Like it's just this terrible situation. But I think that's changed, right, Rick? They have now where they're going to pay the brigades.
It's a huge controversy right now.
Well, and understandably, like there's
basically the problem with the prime minister, and obviously I'm an American on the outside, looking in, is he has not taken enough action,
right,
and he went on holiday in Hawaii,
which though. I guess just as a point of clarification, did he leave while it was on fire, or did it catch on? Like, did the whole fire thing happen while he was there?
Been burning for months, bro.
No, I know that, but was the vacation? When was he on vacation? I guess was it pretty recent?
Christmas holidays.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
Christmas.
See, that's what I can't find. Every time you search for it, it's like what? And I'm like, I just kind of want to know what happened. I don't want to necessarily get the opinion stuff.
That's fucking dumb. Drunken
and then obviously
guardian.
people who have been displaced and people who have lost their homes.
Right.
He's
yeah.
tried to do some goodwill stuff, and that has not gone well.
Over. Yeah.
I mean,
But there's no real
entire
plan of
towns
action.
are gone.
There's no real plan of action is the problem. Like I have friends that live in the Sydney area, and they're literally bringing boxes of food and like water and baby wipes to volunteer stations, and the volunteers aren't there, and just leaving them for when they do come back. They have stuff,
right? Because I know they said that now there are countries that are sending firefighter brigades down there too, right? Is that had I read that right? Like
no,
America?
No, people are I'm very pissed off at our government, and this is not political at all. This is a military thing. We could have sent the Army Corps of Engineers, who are basically doing nothing there.
Right. Well, yeah.
Just to help, because that's what they do. That's
that is kind of what they. Yeah, that's kind of what
that is kind of their fucking thing. Mm-hmm. They're getting paid anyway. They're on salary. It's like it doesn't cost us anymore. They could still be in the Army there as well as here, but we don't do a whole lot of notable humanitarian things. But I'm a soldier, so I can talk bad about the military all I want. Just FYI.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, and that's because I know they were talking about the problems that they were having with the what are the water helicopters, the water bombs that the helicopters were trying to they just don't have enough hardware really to combat this stuff.
The short version, and Black Flag could probably clarify some of the details, but budgetary allocations were put in places and taken away from this prior to this becoming such a big problem, and money is not going back in the right direction quick enough. That's the 10-cent Yankee explanation. So otherwise, mistakes were made.
Mistakes are still being made, but
I mean, listen, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not beating up on them. I am a Hurricane Katrina survivor. That was a total shit show, and that was in this country.
Right.
Because I was 14 days without water or power, and I was not alone.
Yeah. And I have a couple friends who were there too, like who I knew back in college that actually I met in college because they were displaced during Katrina to our college. And that was actually the only ways that we. Oh gosh.
Well, we're Cajun, and we have our own way of doing things, and that is not the way the rest of the country does things. It's just not. So in one of the counties, to not get into the nomenclature, OSHA was on hold basically because there was a lot of red tape, and this was on the news. This is not my opinion. It took way too long for aid to come from not OSHA. I'm sorry, FEMA.
FEMA, yeah,
that makes a
FEMA,
lot more
FEMA.
sense.
So,
OSHA said that you
not
need to put
OSHA,
your
not
goggles on.
Step ladders.
You're laughing, but that's a thing in Louisiana.
Oh God.
Hey, where your hat is? Never mind. But that's off topic. So one county had gone and gotten industrial generators and things from like shipyards and offshore equipment places, and was running basically like their own, a hospital and first aid centers and things like that. FEMA came up and said they weren't authorized to do that and wanted to unplug them until the actual aid allocated to their county was, checked. The sheriff actually ordered his deputies to draw guns and throw FEMA the fuck out of the county.
Oh, jeez.
And that man was untouchable. He was a hero. They never brought up charges. They never mentioned it again. They're just like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have pissed the sheriff off. I'm thinking it's just. This was a bad choice.
This was a mistake that you made.
Oh my gosh.
This was bad judgment. There was a lot of things, but I mean, that's like literally. I remember the day that it was like, okay, we're going to be okay. The 10th Mountaineering Division rolled through the middle of the street, which they are the most deployed Army unit, period, in the world now. And I went, okay, we need to go inside. And they're like, why? I went, I know them, and they're not here to negotiate.
I know them, and we're going inside. Just
they're not here to deliver water. They're here to settle things down, and we will go inside now and not talk about it.
We will settle down is exactly what's going to happen.
And things moved really quickly after the 10th Mountain showed up, because everybody's like, oh, you have large machine guns and tanks. Cool. There was another thing. In one of the police precincts in the French Quarter, because like 30% of the officers couldn't get to the job. They were traveling, whatever. 30% of them outright quit, took their families and hauled ass. So the 30% of the New Orleans police force was actually working. All right.
Jeez.
So in the precinct that is literally the French Quarter downtown, the highest ranking police officer was a old sergeant. And this was on live television. There was a camera crew holed up with him because, well, anyway, he was a Vietnam veteran.
Oh, God.
He went back to Nam, and the camera crew's following him around, and he's like, okay, so we're going during daylight hours. We're gonna go patrol. We're gonna find supplies. We're gonna keep the peace. We're gonna look for people who need help. We're gonna bring them back here. And they hung a plywood board in red. With red spray paint on it, and it said Fort Apache on the front of the police precinct.
Oh, jeez.
No.
And like at night, they had shooters on top, and like people were shooting at the police station. They were literally fighting them off like in a war zone. And so at nighttime, when it got dark, everybody collapsed in. They went into the precinct. They boarded everything up, and it was like, okay, we got fire watch. We got, who's on guard, everything. It was literally like a war. So when the military and FEMA showed up, they went, it's like, well, Sergeant, we got everything. We're here. Everything's fine. You can stand down. He goes, this is my command, son. I do not surrender unless I talk to the officer in charge. The general had to go and relieve him of duty because that was his detail. So I can't remember. I used to know the general's name. It wasn't Perutz or God. He was big. He was like a 4-star general. So he had to go get Sergeant. We're here. I'm relieving you of your command. He's like, very good, sir. I'm going home. He told the army fuck off. He's like, no, son, this is my detail. And this is on TV. This is happening. I'm watching this from home going, this is glorious.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, man. All right. Y'all ready?
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a Destiny rant when it comes around, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I got a bitch about this. It'll be fine. We'll get through it. It's not nearly as long as the time cop analogy.
Okay. Fine. Good. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on January 3rd, 2020, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat as we continue our discussion over time travel shenanigans. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the advanced session of the week's exploration. Congratulations to those who signed up for a deeper dive. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. Green-eyed music lover.
The girded loins of Green Eye.
I mean, oh gosh, we haven't even gotten into any of the physics talk. We haven't touched Destiny yet. We just did like a basic overview. And I'm still like, I need another drink. And I actually stopped drinking at 8, and it's now almost 11 my time. I have coffee.
You see where you've gone wrong.
I know. Maybe it'd make more sense, but I have to work in the morning.
Bygones.
Still.
Okay.
Last but definitely not least in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend ManAtArms. Rick, how are you doing?
I am the world's smartest Titan.
That's not hard. And
Hey.
what's the best?
That makes me remember I think it was it Black Flag that had the response to your lore bites? He takes the paintings of the warlocks and reduces them to the crayon bite-sized pieces.
You know, my question is what is your favorite color, Rick?
Blue.
How does it taste?
Blue.
Good.
Mm.
I love how this meme just took off, and it was just a gag. It was just a gag, and it's taken off completely.
We needed our own thing.
You had Peregrine Greaves.
No, like warlocks wear pajamas and hunters are fashion conscious, and like we punched things. And it's like, well, Titans eat crayons. It's like, of course we do.
Of course we do.
You know,
Why
my
wouldn't we?
favorite scene from this last release was just Saint 14 trying to headbutt the Minotaur that comes out of the Vex Gate, and he takes the goblin and wraps it around him to get more leverage to headbutt even more. It's so good. It's just like, oh my god, I want to see him eat crayons now just because this is amazing.
Crayons is good, yeah.
Crayons is tasty. Bad for digestion, but tasty.
I do not like the pink ones.
What? Why? Why you don't like pink? Why you don't?
Yet.
I
don't know
morphed
Russian.
into like
I don't know
Boston
any more
for some
Russian.
reason. And
Nostrovia. I can toast in 14 languages. I'm just throwing that out there.
That is really not surprising, actually.
Nope. To the surprise of no one ever.
but we have
Crayon's good for
ManAtArms here.
Titan, not good for Pigeon.
Yeah.
Crayon's
God,
good for
chat.
Titan, not good for pigeon. Black Flag. What's going on?
Yeah, we were doing introductions and then we got on a diatribe already. We should rewind time a little bit and get back to it.
Well, and I know everyone
Okay.
except for Green is looking forward to diving into the discussion, so let's get
More
right
coffee.
into it.
I can preface some of this before we launch into it. So, in the top 3, the most important theories of time, you have example of all 3 arguably in Destiny,
Right, which is why I get confused sometimes with Destiny.
which is also my biggest problem with all of it.
I can agree with that, yeah. Because and the problem I think, Rick, correct me here, but the problem is those 3 are not they're not they are mute they don't mix.
They're
like that's the
mutually
point.
exclusive.
They are mutually exclusive. They're not supposed to be mixable.
No, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
But that's what they're doing.
Do you think
They're
this
just
is
putting it in a blender.
I don't know that they know that they're doing it.
I'm pretty sure they know that they're doing it with as many people that yell about it. I'm pretty sure they know what's going
For
on.
each one of the three, because, okay, as you may have noticed, I threw random lore cards into the notes in the wrong place, which is fine.
I think I edited it. I edited it.
I do not Google Docs. Type, for that matter.
You do not show notes very often either.
I quit doing that, like, after episode 4. I'm not typing.
It's fine. Why?
Why?
Oh my goodness.
But no, for at least the big 3, there is a lore example within said lore cards that we could reference for, say, this is what's going on, or whatever. It's gonna get weird regardless, because it's time travel and it's all theoretical anyway, so it's fine.
Hey,
Which one do you want to start with?
I mean, we can just go straight down the line.
All right.
She's editing in front of me.
I
She's
pushed it down
editing
to the
in
advanced. I put it down at the advanced
How
episode
dare
notes.
you.
I mean, I left it there. If you want to stay in the intro notes, you could totally
There's a
stay.
bullet point now. I mean, I don't
feel
even know
like-
how to make the bullet point. First of all,
Just hang on. She's editing in front of me.
now that looks like something I would do now, where nothing is lined up correctly. That is its final form.
Yep. There you go.
Jesus God.
So you have the perfect paradox card, which I think was the first one you were about to reference before I started editing the show notes in front of you. Like magic.
Well, that's our fixed timeline example.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you could argue no time to explain as well,
Yeah.
because we gave Saint 14 a gun that we made, or he made for us, or
We made for
Something.
him that he gave to us that we gave to him.
but he was already deadish, which is a whole other thing. He's kind of dead, so it happened out of order. So
Yeah.
when you're talking about a fixed timeline, time is not changeable. So, okay, it seems like this should be the easiest one to explain, but it's actually the hardest one to explain, in my opinion. Because basically, a fixed timeline, when you go into the past, you are not really changing anything, because what you're changing, you've already changed in your
Correct.
past, even though it's your present. So the result of you being alive and being able to go to the past is the result of your actions. So in other words, you're just playing your part as a cog in the giant construct that is time.
Yes, that would be correct. You can also see that, like, the Merchant and the Alchemist Gate short story, which is another mention within Destiny, is a fixed timeline. So basically, all events are fixed points in time. So that any actions that you do in the past were already done in the past. There's a principle that's called I think it's Novikov self-consistency principle, which basically is exactly that. The problem there is that also indicates that there is no, air quote, free will, that it's all determined already. It's already fixed. It's, you're just exactly what you're saying. You're just a cog in this machine that is existence.
Well, that's a perspective.
Right.
That's
Well,
also
fair. Yeah.
the perspective that there's a higher power that constructed this. Or you could just say that all of the other roads have been closed down and this is the only road left.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just living out the result of something that, to you, from your point in time, hasn't happened, but it has.
Correct. Yeah.
So that future was at one point unknown, but from where you're sitting, it's already happened. So it's not really predetermined by a higher power per se, but you could perceive it that way.
Yeah. I guess that's a good clarification. Yeah.
But you could also just be living out the results of the math that's already been done.
It's the destiny of it. Punch.
Yeah. Well, and that ties into the
Actually
Vex and
accurate.
that also ties into the Vex and their probability machines.
Right.
But
Well,
then you get the
does it,
fun
though?
thing, yes, because you have causality. So the fixed timeline is steeped in causality because it goes back to the concept of the linear theory. So no matter what you do, so like time, your experience of time is not 100% going to be linear within this example of a fixed timeline, but the events that are composed of that timeline are linear. Even if you go back in time and do something, that event has already happened. It's a fixed point. It's not going to change. There is arguably no paradoxes within a fixed timeline because it's already done. It's already happened. Even if you go back in time and you quotes here, the one of the good examples. Okay, you say you want to go back in time and kill baby Hitler, which is the classic example of everything.
Oh God,
right? Well, the fixed timeline would say, okay, you go back in time and you kill baby Hitler. Well, in a fixed timeline model, then what happens is some other child become like it basically they become the figure known as Hitler. Like, it's not going to change what happens. You can't, there is no
fail
or you fail or something happens in which you don't, basically your end goal of removing that figure is not successful because in a fixed timeline, it is a fixed point in time. Any actions that you do by going into the past have already happened. So therefore they're not going to change anything.
Well, that kind of segues into the next one nicely with the whole baby Hitler's a good way to discuss the next one with the dynamic. I lost my show notes.
Yeah, dynamic timelines where the headaches start because.
Well, let's use your baby Hitler. Let's use baby Hitler. Okay.
Right. Well, because dynamic,
starts.
This is where grandfather paradox starts. Is what I mean. Is like this is where all your paradoxes, like actual paradoxes. Things that blow up the universe start happening.
Yeah, and by blow up the universe, they mean you just destroy a timeline that you don't exist in anymore, basically. So time still continues, but so you go back in time, you kill baby Hitler. Okay, I love this one. Baby Hitler always comes up because everybody wants to kill Hitler. It's just, it's a guilty pleasure. It's fine.
It's a guilty pleasure.
I'm not gonna call it what it is. Otherwise, baby Hitler killing analogy would never come up. So you go back in time and you kill baby Hitler, but therefore Hitler never grew up. Hitler never performed the atrocities. Therefore, you erased your motivation to go back in time to kill baby Hitler. So being that you didn't know baby Hitler existed or grown Hitler existed, you would have never gone back in time to be able to go back and kill baby Hitler and the universe explodes.
Yay, causal loops.
But the dynamic timeline's also all the best storytelling elements.
Right. That's time because you have things like the grandfather paradox where like that's where you have like you go. So the dynamic timeline is when you go into the past and you have impacts on the present. So like you can change things in the past and they actually have ramifications in the present. And unlike the next model that we'll talk about, the dynamic timeline is a single timeline. So there is no splintering of that timeline. Okay. Whereas within the multiverse, every time...
Here we go.
So, brace yourself.
Yeah, multiverse is where it gets real fun. Like, you'll be...
So the dynamic timeline...
Well, actually, you go and I'll give a layman explanation or whatever. We'll see how. I don't know if I can give a layman explanation.
Stealth in chat. No.
So dynamic timeline is still kind of a fixed-esque timeline, right?
Dynamic timeline is a single timeline. It's not fixed. It's a single.
Okay.
Timeline
Gotcha.
Yeah. So fixed timeline fixed timeline and dynamic timeline, you have a singular path.
Okay. So there's only one. Correct. There's only one version.
Existence. You're only in one dimension. Like you only exist.
My time cop analogy is dynamic timeline.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Listen to the introduction episode for that story.
Oh, apparently there's an episode where Barry Allen explains to Supergirl the concept of multiverse. Okay, so if you're a fan of the Flash, in the Arrowverse.
I mean, that's one version of the multiverse.
Well, and comic books are multiverse. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so multiverse is the idea similar to dynamic timeline, but it's based around the idea of alternate timelines. And it basically posits that there's an infinite number of parallel universes and that traveling into the past causes a new divergent timeline from the first. So because of this, you can change anything, but because it creates a new divergent timeline, only that new timeline is being affected. So the original timeline doesn't change. It's fixed, but you can't get back to it. So your new timeline is changed. So any paradoxes you create in that timeline are just consistent to that timeline, to that parallel universe. So you see this within like Terminator series is a lot of Terminator 2 and Terminator 3. This is a lot of problems in there. I think the other one that I saw was Star Trek. I guess I didn't know that one.
That's the newer movie. That's the
Okay. Okay. I got you. So that's the explanation of how they didn't retcon anything, but it was okay.
Or it's a way to reboot a franchise. Whatever,
Right.
That's
Yeah.
fine. It's everything's fine like wine. Okay.
So multiverse.
This exists in Destiny, but it's really complicated and blood's going to shoot out of my ears.
Okay.
And me and Green actually joked about this in passing, I don't know, a while back about Praedyth.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Praedyth was quote unquote erased from time. And if you play D1, you remember that nobody really remembered who Praedyth was. He went into the vault, he didn't exist. Because, what we were always told is you go into the vault and the Vex erase you from ever existing, which we know that doesn't work because of our previous conversations. You can't erase somebody from ever existing because you change. The Vex are very cautious about monkeying with the past. So here, let me backtrack. Okay, so the clearest example you have of multiverse in the Destiny universe is Venus, which I couldn't find the card, unfortunately, because it talks about the Ishtar Collective, if I'm not mistaken, on Venus.
Mm-hmm.
They were studying on Venus, and then one day all these Vex structures showed up. And then
when they pop into existence?
Yeah, and then they tested it, and I think they were billions of years old, if I'm not mistaken. If not billions, it was millions of years old.
Yeah, it was like they were
so
significantly, yeah.
So it was like they were always there. So that's an example of a multiverse, meaning that the Vex had constructed the Vault and their constructs, for lack of a better term, because I don't know how else to say that, on another version of Venus in an alternate Venus in an alternate timeline. And some kind of way, which was never explained, they brought that Venus into our Venus and made that world and brought it into our world, which is how we gain access to the Vault of Glass. So in terms of Praedyth, like we were mentioning in our previous conversation, you can't erase somebody from time because that would retroactively change everything that went up to that point. And the Vex also can't calculate Guardians because they can't simulate paracausality. So it's like they're trying to do a gigantic math problem, but instead of having one X to solve for, they have a very large number of X's that can do an infinite number of things that they can't calculate. So they're just kind of like, shit.
Just shoot it.
Just shit. So they really don't change with but when you're invading the vault and they're trying to protect Atheon and keep time's conflux intact so they can do their monkeying. Okay, maybe we erase him from time because this is the last ditch effort. That's the only way I can rationalize it. So to explain what happened to Praedyth, okay, because I'm very proud of myself that I figured this out. Or at least came up with an analogy that lets me sleep at night. They removed Praedyth from time in the vault, but they didn't remove Praedyth from all time. As you know, he went to the waiting room. So inside the vault, it's a Jenga tower. You know the game?
Mm-hmm.
So when Praedyth was in there, Praedyth was in that present. So as soon as something happens, it's a fixed point. You can't go back and change it. So what they did is they didn't erase Praedyth from ever existing. They just took Praedyth out of that present and they moved him to the top of the tower. So he still exists in time, just not at that point in time. So that's why nobody remembered him. But he couldn't. They couldn't totally wipe him out of existence. So they sent him to what I like to call the waiting room of Praedyth.
The cell, his prison.
He has the greatest view of anyone in the Destiny universe. He gets to see alternate past. I don't know if he's seeing simulations. I don't know if he's seeing actual streams of
I don't think he even
time.
knows exactly what he's seeing. Like, there's
At
not
this- yeah.
not a lot
Go
of
ahead.
clarity with that.
No, at this point, I think he's just gone batshit and he's enjoying the ride. He's like, that's pretty cool. That dude blew up in that timeline that I've already forgotten about because I've seen 900 other things.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically just put Praedyth in the penalty box. And it's like, well, we'll deal with him later. We opened the door and Praedyth came back into being because not only did we know about Praedyth, like we bring the ghost to Lakshmi and all of a sudden Praedyth is a thing again in our world where he wasn't before. It was like, okay. I don't know why we went through all this, but that is a thing that happened. And it seems like a really poor way to dispatch somebody. But, hey, it's the Vex. I don't understand the beginning. I also don't understand how they exist in the past, present, and future. And they're a hive mind and they travel back and forth and they're not talking to each other. I don't get that at all.
Well, okay, so they're also not only are they're kind of sort of hive mind, they're unitized. They're in groupings because you have
Yeah.
the Soul Divisive, who is kind of the outlier when it comes to the Vex. The other Vex don't necessarily like the Soul Divisive. There's mentions of them thinking of them as other in some respects, but like the others, I think they're still connected within the hive mind of their time unit, whatever mind you have, like the universal mind. Lee Golo from Halo, what's that?
The hunters.
Oh, the hunters. Yeah, that makes. I see them as units rather than.
Well, the Let Golo are seen as they're also like when they're in their hive or when they're in their colony, which is the hunter figure, they are seen as a single entity. But even the Let Golo, like that single hunter, is a colony of Legogo worms.
Which is if the hive are, or not the hive, but if the Vex are the compilation of all the tiny radiolaria, then they're also a hive within themselves.
Right. Yeah. So they would be each individual like goblin could arguably be a colony of, or a sub colony of the radiolaria that then belongs to they're the hive mind of the Soul Divisive. And then, each one of those components, so you have the goblins, you have the hobgoblin, all these different sub colonies that then function differently based on what their assignments are, but then ultimately they are communicating on that channel, if you will, with each other. In order just to cooperate, in order to exist in the world, they have to, communicate to move the body, move the suit of armor that they're wearing. And so then that also, if they have that level of communication with each other, then it's not as huge of a leap to understand that they have that level of communication with the larger, I don't know what you would call it, the larger community of their
Collective.
particular collective.
And
then there's also the whole thing that they are kind of arguably part machine. There may be part machine somewhat or something because they're living metal.
Mm-hmm.
I always think I can't remember the Daleks from Doctor Who.
Yeah, the little squid guys.
That's just their conveyance.
Yeah, I mean they are pretty similar. If they had a voice, I could imagine them yelling "exterminate."
Oh God.
So Vex or Doctor Who ripoff confirmed.
No. No.
100%. Cybermen,
100%.
they mixed it with Cybermen.
Do you want me to break your
They
head a
combine it
little
with
bit
the-
more?
They combined it with the Cybermen. They,
Oh,
if you
no,
touch the Vex,
no.
you become a Vex. So, they ripped off Doctor Who twice.
You ready for me to break your head a little bit more?
Do it.
The Vex are also within a linear timeline, as well as the multiverse timeline.
Oh, no,
There's
yeah.
there's
Mhm.
a
I would agree with
there's
that.
a scannable on Nessus that says this is like a cornerstone for Nessus, put here by the Vex to mark linear time. It's been 127 of our years since Nessus last traveled through our system. I don't know how many Vex years that is. So that they're laying their own groundwork to create not necessarily an actual linear time, but they're marking time in a linear fashion. And then another scannable also on Nessus says, in some simulation of some far distant future on some alternative version of Nessus, this energy beam might serve some purpose that we understand, not here though. So there's your multiverse and your semi sort of linear timeline in the same scans.
Which is, and this is fourth wall type. This is the problem in the storytelling.
Is it the problem though, or is it the fact that they use time in such a way that it's a tool for them? It's not necessarily something that they are bound to, that they have no control over, but something that they can move with and utilize. Because that's one of the lines
from a
recently
writing
too.
perspective.
From a writing, yeah.
because
Mm.
From a writing perspective, basically, it's like you said, okay, vampires can be killed by silver, but they can only be killed by wooden stakes through the heart. In
Gotcha.
the same sentence.
Well,
And it's like, well, wait, no, that's not. It's like you took a blade vampire and you mixed it in with what's his name, Boris Karloff. It's
right.
like, these are both canon. Wait, no, that's not how this works.
That's not how this. You think this is a game?
But those two, they're not they're not exactly different. It's just one is us observing that they are marking time in a linear fashion, like we mark dates on a calendar, whereas the other one it's the Venus thing all over again, where you have something that was from another time that's hundreds of years old type thing. It's just they function in more the multiverse aspect.
Right. You have two different perceptions at war with each other. We perceive them. It's like the mythological presence of Merlin. Merlin lives in a linear fashion, but yes, but he lives backwards as opposed to everybody else.
Why would you bring that up?
But because it works, because because like that's the thing is like, he lives, his exposure or his perception of time is the same as ours. It's a linear progression. It's going forward, but what it looks like to us is something completely different. The same with like the Vex.
He's so wise because he's already seen that. That was yesterday. I mean, it's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I don't know of any other character that exists in that way, but. How does he know so much? Because that was breakfast.
Yeah, that was yeah. But like that's to me how you can see the Vex as both being a fixed and in a dynamic, or fixed and a multi, because the individual Vex units are linear. Like if you could hitch a GoPro to them if you want, their perception of what they're doing is going step by step forward,
right? Which is how.
But we perceive
at that point.
Right. We perceive their actions as going around and hopping.
I take small issue with the term paracausal.
This is going to be fun.
Oh no.
No, this is just semantics.
Yeah,
this is just semantic. To me, it's a cop-out word.
Just the fact to be not affected by causality.
No, okay, so this is why. Well, no. And it's a red herring, but I just want to get this off my chest. Sorry.
No, go for it.
The Vex are all the Vex are the giant clock, and they're trying to fix and make the giant clock run a certain way, and it's all math. And we throw out the term paracausal. They can't calculate it. No, they're not paracausal. Guardians are not paracausal. Guardians are fucking supernatural. We have power from a magic ball in the sky, which is supernatural. And there is no math to calculate magic ball in the sky power. That's why they can't do the math, because it's science fiction. We are living science fiction. Can you do math on Merlin? No. Why? Wizard. Magic you just do.
Well, if you're gonna do the was it significantly an advanced
Wizard!
enough situation? I mean, is it indistinct? Magic is just indistinguishable from technology. If
Arthur
you're
C.
going to follow
Clarke.
that line,
Mhm.
Not if your actual source of power is the supernatural.
but
It's
if
a
you can
giant ball.
can you understand the supernatural?
But that's what I was saying. That's why they can't do the math. Everybody likes to throw out the paracausal sounds very nice. It sounds very intellectual. I get it. It sounds cool. Okay. Warlocks levitate. This is magic, goddammit. This is not science. That's why the Vex can't do the math on us. Like I said, this is just me venting. This was not
you're good.
This was not constructive to the conversation. I apologize.
No, you're good. It's the paracausal. Now, this is an argument that gets brought up in chat a lot too, in Discord. It's the idea that because they're using.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I saw him too.
This is magic.
This is the quote
It's
that will
the-
be on
it's
my
the-
tombstone.
It's the Titan's answer. It's magic, damn it!
Space magic.
But I mean, if supposedly, and if Ikora is any example with some of her books and stuff that she's written, as well as Asher, there is math behind it. We just don't see it because nobody wants to read that shit.
I mean, I want to read it, but it's not accessible to me.
Well, and they
Right.
do have the capability of figuring out singular Guardian's light, because that's the whole thing with Saint 14 and the Martyr Mind.
Mm-hmm.
Was that they were able to compute that singular piece of the supernatural.
But that
So
brings
it's
us
actual
back to the
supernatural,
argument if
though.
that actually even happened.
Well, no, it happened. It's just because we took out the undying mind, it technically doesn't happen in our past anymore, but it happens in our past, but not Saint 14's past because he's alive, not dead.
Right.
Well, but you also have the whole, I'm going to call it the ripcord of all of this happened in the simulated infinite forest thing.
Oh, yeah. That's
So
that-
did we actually even see the real dead Saint 14? We don't know. Which,
Well-
I mean, from a writing perspective, I
Yeah.
think that's brilliant because you could always go, no ho, ha ha, that never happened.
Right.
We fucked up very badly, so magic, goddammit. No, I'm just joking. But no, it's just, I think it's a nice safety net because you go, well, did it happen? But anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. That was one of the arguments that we had with the whole Curse of Osiris, is the fact that everything that we were doing was taking place within the infinite forest.
yeah.
And so
there's
it could
a
all
lot
be-
yeah. Did we ever
you're saying,
leave?
Did it even happen?
Right.
Yeah.
Is this a dream? Did I just dream
No.
something?
Curse of Osiris was a different version of Beat Saber when you really think about it. That's all
How?
we did for a season.
Because you
was we
ran
went
down
to
the
a
hallway.
We ran down a hallway in a
Oh.
virtual world that we are told at the beginning, this is not real.
I really want Beat Saber stick. Like have you seen the what is it called? It's the
Beat
pole
Saber?
staff.
Yes,
I want
said
the
Beat
pole staff version. I want a Destiny pole staff Beat Saber. I want this to happen. I want to run with my guardian with my freaking arc staff and just beat the snot out of Vex.
I'm making a point to never talk about Curse of Osiris because just like, Panoptes is doing things. Well, he's doing things in the magical virtual reality machine. Awesome. How is that going to affect me outside of the magical virtual reality machine?
I mean, the thing is that virtual reality machine is the Vex simulating ways to beat us. That's the whole purpose behind it.
Right, but
It's
in that
trying to figure out
logic,
ways.
then us interacting with that virtual machine is actually helping them.
Right. Which is kind of the funny part of this whole thing, that we've just basically handed them some keys towards our own demise.
I was completely drinking chat. Excellent.
Yes.
Spectral Blade Hunter Beat Saber mod.
Okay, so going back to the vault, in connection, the Infinite Forest and the vault are very similar. Well, or almost identical.
The purposes are different, though.
The purposes are different, but the vault really doesn't exist either in our time. Like when you go through the door of the vault, you are removing yourself from.
You're going into
space-time.
a different waiting room.
Well,
So
I mean,
the vault doesn't actually exist in the. Whatever goes on in the vault has no effect on the rest of the universe, apparently.
well, okay, so it's kind of, if you want to take it from a very, very light touch to it, but it's not much different than going into Ascendant Realm.
No,
It's
that.
a thought.
I would agree with that.
It's a thought realm.
Well, I
in
don't know
some
about that because
respects.
like the vault technically is the confluence of timelines. Like, so
Right,
you do
but
have a physical component there that's not just paracausal, or not, sorry.
Right,
not
but as soon as you step
psychological.
into that area, it's not of this necessarily of this plane.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I see what you're saying. Absolutely. But everything in the vault is hyper real, as opposed to Infinite Forest, where it's Beat Saber Raid.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which I think would be the difference between the vault and the forest, right? Is the vault actually is affecting reality, where the Infinite Forest is simulating it.
Well, the Infinite Forest is also dynamically changing, quote unquote,
Correct.
every time you go in there.
Right, because it's learning from you, yeah. Whereas
Walking
the vault
into
is
the
a
vault-
reflection of reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's like walking into Freddy Krueger's nightmare realm.
That's fair.
Like
I can see that.
once
Yeah.
you cross the plane, it's their rules apply to to a degree. I mean, there's limitations on the rules, but that whole raid, there was a magnitude of like shit going on in that raid. It's like if you actually, I mean, when you read, well, I mean, you guys have read about it, obviously. Jesus Christ, I'm not talking to.
Mm-hmm.
But the ramifications of the Vault of Glass raid, when you're just a person going in and playing it, like, oh, that was cool. When you read the lore behind, you're like, oh God, everything almost
Right. Well, I mean, you have things like what are they're not called harpies, but they are harpies. The gorgons. Gorgons that can just erase you.
Yeah.
Absolutely
From-
erase you.
Well, they send you to the Jenga penalty box.
The Jenga penalty box.
I mean, we still
Well,
don't
no.
technically know what is it, 2 of the names of the Praetus fire team?
3.
3.
Or if
you
there
have-
were
you have-
3.
Yeah, we don't even know
just
if there
gone.
were. Yeah.
Because
We know Praetus-
It never existed.
Yeah.
Or maybe they tried to 3-man it, which is why they fail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you have to have more than 3 people to go into each gate and take out all the oracles. And I did not like that raid. I was not good
Oh
at
man, I
raiding then.
loved
I
Vault.
loved that raid.
I was- I want to go
see,
back
the-
into it.
The sadist like the Vault of Glass.
It's fine.
that was before they did the, or no, they randomized the sending, didn't, right? Because it used to be that structure where you had to, if you were against the wall, you got sent into the final fight.
Oh yeah. When they retooled it, it was just
And
like,
then
we don't
and
know
then-
who's going.
Yeah, then they
But
because they
everybody's going.
made it random after. Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, and then no, when they put in the challenge, it's like no, everyone's going.
Oh
Wait,
god,
what?
that challenge. Yeah, that oh.
What? I don't want to go in there. Oh, no, you're going.
I need a cleanse.
And then you always had the one guy that we forgot to tell him not to shoot sleeper simulator.
Oh gosh.
Or maybe we told
Because
them
you put up the
specifically-
bubble.
No, you shoot. No, when you went in to kill the oracles, if you shoot an oracle with
Oh.
the sleeper simulant, it's coming right back at you. I don't
Oh,
care if it's
really?
flying.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. I never tried that. I just remember once you got out and jumped to the center, you're like getting ready to be
No,
cleansed.
that's the
You
rocket
don't
launcher.
shoot.
Don't
Yeah,
rocket
but
launcher.
you. Oh my god, it was so bad. I died so many
Fraggle.
times because I had not. No, I died because of Kevin.
Oh no,
He never
Fraggle was
listened-
the one.
oh
that was
my
the key.
God.
That was the same as King's Fall.
Oh my
Someone would pop.
God.
Someone pops the bubble right as the rocket gets launched.
Uh-huh. Pops the bubble in the wrong spot and Oryx and Crota. Crota was worse because Crota, it was like so easy to put it in the same spot every time. And for
Mhm.
some reason, Kevin just couldn't do it. And I was just like, dude, seriously, I'm going to hurt you. And I'm like, I'm not a violent person with raids. I'm really easy going. But I literally stopped and I screamed out, like, who the fuck put a bubble here? And all you hear is this man who's probably like 350, can bench press like 300 pounds, go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's like, dude, I'm 5'2" and I just castrated you verbally. Fix it.
That's like if someone puts the bubble in Crota the wrong place. I'm like,
That's what it was. Yeah,
was that
that's
that
what
the
it
thing?
was.
Okay.
That was where it was. He
Oh,
put it-
that's
'cause
right. I
instead of
remember this
putting it
story.
tucked
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
He's moved it to the right over like by the bridge where the bridge actually starts. And I'm like, you fucker. Oh my god, I'm so mad at him. I'm kind of
Crota
oh
was
my
the
God.
one that gives you PTSD with all the glitches. All it took was
Crota-
Crota coming into the back room with you,
Yes.
and I was like, no.
well, Crota coming to the back room, and then you had orcs with the ogres that just
Yeah,
decided to go wherever they wanted to.
Yeah, the teleporting ogres.
Oh my gosh.
But Crota was the first time I remember being like, you were like, okay, we're gonna go to the back room because it's safe. And we turn around and Crota's like standing right there. We're like, you're not supposed to be here. This is our room. Go.
This is our room.
This is our room.
Our clubhouse.
You're not allowed.
But let's go back to time travel.
Every time that happened, I go, things have gone awry. Everybody just knew, just run in any direction you did not see Crota. Okay, back to time travel.
So, oh my gosh. Okay, so time travel, Vex, the Vault, the Infinite Forest. Do we have other examples? Do we think the Black Garden is affected in the same way, or is it actually linear, or is the fact that the Black Garden exists in multiple places, in multiple times?
Well, we did.
There's always.
We do know
I don't
that
get-
there were multiple gardens, and they are anchored on Mars after the Black Heart was destroyed.
Right, but there's no time tied to it yet. At the same time, the
well, I
Black
guess that's
Heart
fair
is
because
still
it's outside of
growing.
time.
Right, but the Black Heart is still growing within it, so it still adheres to the laws of time, even though it technically is outside of time, which is its own fuckery that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I
because
mean,
it still has linear time within it.
progression.
I
Yeah.
think the Black Garden is the only real universal fixed point in time in Destiny.
Is it though? The Black Garden, like, there's the aspect of the growing into the future and the past, but if that's the case, that's just the flowers, right? That's not necessarily the Black Heart or even the Vex within it, the soul device within it. Those are still affected by
Right.
normal time.
No, I think those are just parasites on a thing bigger than what the hell we even know what the hell it is. Do
The
we know
flower
what the hell it
game,
is?
kind of not. There's a
really.
lot of theories on it still. But
I think that that's just something as a physical place. It doesn't. It just exists. You have a few pockets. Okay, so you got Praetus Waiting Room is just a place that exists. The Vault is just a place that exists. Whatever the hell this mess we made out of Mercury or Osiris made out of Mercury, that's a place that exists It's very small and contained, but it's like a pocket dimension. So good job there. I mean,
Mhm.
they have to be dating. That's a lot of trouble to go through to get your drinking buddy back from the grave. I'm just throwing that out there. That's
Oh my god,
If
have
you
you read that
remember 'em.
webcomic?
no. I literally
Oh.
just threw that out there.
Oh, there's a webcomic where it's Ikora and it's Osiris and he's like all pissed and then she's like, you two just need to get a room. He's like, what? And he's just like, and it's just, oh, I'll have to see if I can find it. It's freaking hilarious.
I've ripped a hole in all of existence because I need my drinking buddy back.
Mhm.
Wait. That I've had many good friends in my life.
I
I've
mean-
never put the entire universe in peril to have another beer.
I mean, at least it isn't like ripping a hole in reality and tossing your son into it, and then out comes the Vex.
Well, okay, hang on. That's a little bit of a misrepresentation. He tossed him into the hole because he cut a hole because Crota summoned the Vex.
Because he let out the Vex.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was more for spite.
Yeah.
Like, get your
That-
ass in that hole.
No, I mean after he did it, but like Crota cutting the hole just for funsies because he wants to see what happens.
Yeah, I blame Savathun for that one.
I mean, is it Savathun or is it just Iralock and Nuke that did that to him?
No, that was Savathun. Savathun tricked him into doing that.
We're still involved.
Oh man, wouldn't you cut a hole just to see what happened?
No, I don't want to go to prison.
Not that. I'm not talking about stabbing a bitch.
I mean, isn't that what we're talking about?
No, that's not how this works.
That's not how this works.
Everything is Savathun. I'm over that shit.
Don't be over that shit because I think that shit's
I
going to come
know.
back.
No, it's coming back, and
I think we're still going to get more Vexy stuff first, but pretty sure with what the moon's just on hiatus right now.
Savathun's like the opposite of Satan. She convinced the world that she did exist. As opposed to convincing
I was like, where is this going? Like, where is this?
I totally exist everywhere. All up in your head.
Oh my god, she is the game.
She is the least sneaky person I've ever heard of. This is the opposite of subterfuge.
She's just everywhere.
It's like, listen, I'm totally spying on you right now. Why are you telling me this? Wait. She went to this is the worst trade craft I've ever seen in the field. I'm just throwing that out there.
I don't know. I still think that Savathun's got more to do on freaking Moon than we also had the pyramid ship. Like we have so much story left to do that will tie into her. I think that there's too much left. She's got to have more coming.
You brought up the moon, and that goes back to my whole supernatural thing. This is why I think the Vex invaded the moon, the whole Vex incursion.
Because they want the pyramid ship power?
No, because there's freaking ghosts they don't understand walking around the moon like, no, that's more of that stuff we can't calculate. We got to kill all of this.
Blow it all up.
Nope. What's the math come back? There is no math. That moon's gone. That's it.
You think that the Vex came in because of the ghost rather than the pyramid ship?
Well, it's all connected. There's like, okay, there's all this cool paracausal stuff going on the moon. We got to put a stop to this immediately. This does not fit into the math.
This needs to be nipped in the bud. Stat.
Right, but gosh, then what about Eris?
Are we gonna? I mean, could you be more specific?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to be, but I also kind of want to see where you take it just with just that lead in. But
Okay, I'll go. Here we go. It's fine. I'll take the bait. You know, when she touches the statue and she has that grin.
mhm.
This is the way I interpreted it because I've seen that look in real life. To me, it was the receiving of knowledge. Because when you are tortured by something and you're left in ignorance, and all of a sudden everything makes sense, you would grin. It's like, oh, okay, then that's what's going on. Now, whatever that was, I have no idea. I really did not understand the nightmares, what they mean. I don't understand. Okay, this pisses me off. I understand nightmares and barrier nights and unstoppable hive and all these things. How the hell did the cabal get hive shield technology on Mercury in a different timeline? I don't understand this besides game mechanic, and it pisses me off.
Hive on Mercury within the Infinite Forest, you mean? Or
No, not the hive, the cabal. I'm sorry. It's like I understood the unstoppable knights and the barrier knights and the different loadouts and the different perks. Yeah, it's like, okay, this is evil darkness hive magic. I get this. And then we go to fight the cabal in Ultimate Timeline, and there's an unstoppable colossus. I'm like, wait, what? We're mixing metaphors now. Sorry, I had to get out.
I mean,
I don't know
nightmares.
what the fuck's
It's not the nightmares aren't it's not the moon's nightmares. It's our nightmares. We're fighting basically our own figments of our imagination that are really freaking powerful that have manifested all over the universe at this point, or all over the solar system, rather.
I still haven't killed Nightmare Mithrax. That dude's pissed.
Really?
Oh God, he's like 980 or something. He pops out of he's hanging out in a little bitty tunnel that goes nowhere. I mean, it's just like he's I'm chilling here. This is cool.
Yeah.
Just chilling. Oh look, a guardian. I have to bring 6 people in here to deal with you bastard.
It didn't take that much the first time.
I don't understand. I honestly, and I'm just throwing this. I didn't understand anything. I understood. That's not true. I don't understand a lot of went on in the moon. I understand the lore of it. The pyramid ship. I understood the Clovis Bray facility and all the research. We talked about that. The two of us. I got all that. What was actually happening when we showed up? I'm like, okay, so the evil 4-sided dice can manifest red things. Cool. Why?
Because magic. No.
Probably.
Because psychology more than anything, actually.
I did like Eris's whole stages of grieving process they kind of surreptitiously threw in there as you liberated the souls of her dead fire team members. I thought that was it was out there, but it wasn't like in your face out there. I'm like, oh, this is really cool.
A subtle touch to it, yeah.
I like that. If you paid a little bit of attention, it was like, okay, that's a nice little story arc. And then she touches a statue and grins at me mischievously. Why? I don't know. And I also didn't walk around the pyramid ship because there was a shiny ball in the middle of the room and I needed that immediately.
I got to play it a few different times, so you're not missing much.
I needed that immediately.
Shiny.
Yes.
This is mine.
There's not a whole lot of extra in that space. You can go up to a few door-like things, but there's barriers in the way where you can't actually go into them, or you get like fuzzy on the side of the screen type thing if you get too close to them. So you weren't missing much.
The most tightened thing possible inside of the pyramid ship.
Did you punch it?
No, I looked off to the right at one part, and there were like 2 little red dots in the darkness, like off the side of the ledge. So I totally charged that to see what that was. And
that was a light.
It was 2 lights over an abyss. But I confirmed that it was not a scary monster. So you're
Good. You saved me. You're like my
Totally.
dog. You bark for no reason,
totally,
but you
I
totally saved me.
totally jumped off the ledge, Peregrine Greaves and all.
Oh
No
my
regrets.
gosh.
YOLO.
YOLO.
I'm like, whatever that is, I'm coming.
Oh god.
Oh, it is death. Excellent. I've died many times. Not a big deal.
It's okay. I've tried to climb the statue to see if you can get above it or anything. It's really hard to. Not very easy. You fall to your death quite a bit. I spent a lot of time doing that because reasons. Blue, do we want to tie this back into any sort of time traveling shenanigans before we start to get to the wrap up point?
I think we pretty much. No.
I don't know how you recover from this.
Yeah.
Is there
No,
is there any
I'm good.
concise way to like wrap it up? Like there's the concept of the Vex, there's the concept of what we deal with linearly God, that word, I hate that word.
Linearly.
Literally linearly. But and dynamic timeline and stuff like that.
Yeah, so like I mean, I think the thing too is like the time frame or timeline theory of Destiny is for our at least as far as our perception is still developing. So like, you know, it's hard because we're coming at this and we're trying to understand what's going on when we don't have a full picture. And it's already at we're kind of at a disservice already because it is a fictional realm, so they can kind of play fast and loose with the rules as it is already. I mean, like Doctor Who is a prime example of this. Don't try to logically follow Doctor Who from a time traveling perspective. Like you will get frustrated and like you sit down and you have to have a suspension of belief. Like you have to just, you know, enjoy it for the story it is and the shenanigans that they get up to in it. Like if you start being like, well, you know, that's actually paradoxical and that doesn't make sense. Like they do like a bit of a service to it, but they don't hold to it. That's kind of my approach to time travel within Destiny also is like, I'm like, okay, I just kind of have to accept it on the surface because otherwise I just start seeing a lot of problems. And honestly, that's how I deal with time travel in a lot of entertainment mediums is because, you know, and that's kind of what we were talking about with the dynamic timeline. It makes for great stories if you're looking at a very small picture. But when you start thinking about the conclusions beyond the rolling of the credits, that's when it starts becoming very problematic because, yeah, sure, you save the day, hurrah, and the credits roll. But in reality, that's not how that's not how that works. And so
it's
that's
a fun thought experiment without going
Right.
into too much of the
right.
ramifications of it.
Right. You just have to suspend your belief for that story. And then when it's and they lived happy ever after, you just kind of have to be like, okay, well, that's a nice story, but it's not going to actually work. So I mean, that's the problem that I've had with whenever entertainment mediums start doing like, we're going to do time travel. It's like, oh no, like, because it usually just ends badly. Like they once you open that Pandora's box, there's really not a lot unless you do it very sparingly. Like there's really not very many directions you can go before you kind of have to start like getting pretty heavy. I don't want to say like retcons, but you have to get pretty hard-handed. Yeah, you start getting paradoxes, which, I mean, I guess if you are going to use those paradoxes as a catalyst for a future story, I mean, you just have to be careful with the dominoes that you start tipping over when it comes to this particular thing. And I think they are, but it's just we'll see.
So what I'm hearing is time travel can't actually happen because reasons.
Are we talking in reality?
Real life or
Sure
Yeah.
thing.
Well, so
in
okay,
real life? No,
reality. So
not today.
not today, and technically, like this is actually there's a lot of different camps for this part. a lot of people believe that it's outright impossible. And even those who admit that it is possible, currently speaking, or in our current standpoint, it would be fatal to anybody who chose to undertake it. Like, you would not survive it today. Like, if we suddenly had the ability somehow to travel time, it would be more than just the ability. We'd have to have a very significant boost in technology or resilience or something, because our bodies could not handle that particular form of stress.
Right.
Even like,
is it still under the consideration of the black hole idea?
no, like even okay,
that,
so
or,
like, well, okay, so let's talk about just like the innocent little one that we did for top 3. Like, let's jump into the past. Our bodies don't have, just from a biological standpoint, our bodies are not capable of handling the germs and the biological component of a different time frame or time space, because there are pathogens and viruses that existed at that point in time that no longer exist today. We would die from just simple exposure.
Right.
Then you have the process of actually traversing that. So like, even with your, like, you have to undergo certain stressors to literally travel that space or that time. Like, if you're, and this ties into like the concept of time being a fourth dimension, and all that, there's, and I think it was Einstein kind of described it as a additional coordinate. So it's just, it's just their body, the human person that exists today, even those who admit that time travel would be possible, are almost uniformly in an agreement that even if it was possible, we would not survive. It would be fatal to the person traveling.
I'm going to say this politely. So the UFO enthusiast, the reason, if you ever watch one of these documentaries, it always revolves around a ship that is powered by gravity or generates its own gravity, and its own gravity inside. So, the laws of inertia and velocity don't apply to you, because that's the only way this would work with an organic being.
Yeah.
So it's like the default cause and effect. It's like, well, in order to do this, we need a magical spaceship. Gravity is magical. Okay, aliens fly magical gravity spaceships. Time travel. So that's the thing. Today, in our modern technology, it's not possible. Mathematically speaking, it's possible. Could we physically do it? No.
Yeah.
Do we have the technology to execute the things we need to create to be able to we skipped over the whole infinite tube thing for a reason. When we're talking about Stephen Hawking, mathematically, that makes perfect sense and it could work. You cannot put a human being in a centrifuge and spin him at 1 billion revolutions in a second.
You can. There's not gonna be a human when you get done.
There's going to be some adverse side effects.
There's going to be a stretched piece of skin that needs to be squirted with water every 20 minutes.
Moisturize me.
Scenario,
Moisturize
you poop
me.
your pants.
Then why is there such a... I'm just like, okay, so then why is there such a fascination with the idea of going and changing our past? It's just that psychological, if I could redo it again type thing.
That's my opinion. Yeah. It's the same as, the grass is greener on the other side.
Right.
It's the concept of humanity is constantly reevaluating everything that they've gone through. It's that idea of, hindsight's 2020. If I only fixed it this, or if I should have done, or like the time cop thing that Rick was talking about, like go through door B. Well, the reality is that reality is not that simple. It's not just a binary switch that you go right instead of left. There's so many other possible ramifications to it. But in our limited perception of reality, when we're looking back at, our present or our past, we put meaning to it from our present. So like, depending on how you're feeling today, yesterday could be a really good thing or a really bad thing. And that will color your flavor of being like, I would rather have done this and then that would have made me happier. Well, I mean, would it? And then that goes into the whole concept of synchronicity, and it starts, the ripple effect is very significant. That also ties into, it ties into the concept of Sonder, which is a whole nother, probably a whole nother conversation. But Sonder, really briefly, is the fact that every single human person exists as a completely complex creature in and of themselves. And so when you're talking to a person who's talking about time travel, they exist within their own set of reality. So, but a lot of times when you see time travel being used in entertainment, it doesn't take into account all the, what I refer to as the NPCs of the story, because all of those NPCs are doing the same thing that the main character is doing. They have all their own complex things going on, and time travel is a way of humanity simplifying what has happened and being like, oh, well, it also teaches. It's also a process of teaching. Like, you can apply what you learned from your mistakes in the past, you can apply to the present and even to the future. And so that's a way also that you can kind of see that being an educational process psychologically as well.
Interesting. Okay, Blue. Rick. I hurt. I like talking and debating about these things, but time travel I don't like it because it's just theory after theory with so many problems.
Right. Well, and that's, it's a lot of theory, and there's really nothing concrete. Like there's no way of being like, okay, well, if we did it like this, it's all a mind game. Like it's not, there's
Right,
nothing,
but it's a mind game that breaks the rules.
Yes.
I mentioned at the very beginning of the series when we mentioned string theory, like I read physics books for fun in high school. And if they are written in such a way like Brian Greene writes, or even Einstein actually wrote a really easy to comprehend type book. It doesn't have a lot of the mathematical problems in it, but it gives you the thought game. It tells you how to think about it in a way that is going to make sense in the grand scheme of it. That's okay. But trying to quantify and create allegories for concepts
that's not quantifiable.
Right. And things that cannot happen. They cannot physically happen, or we have no experience of them happening. So there's no way to even consider how it would actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating on a very deep level. And I feel for anybody who's like, oh my God, I don't want to talk about time travel because time travel hurts. Well, yeah, it hurts because it's something we can't grasp because it's all theoretical and it's all beyond our scope of understanding with even just the most basic concepts to try to construct it.
Yeah,
it just falls apart.
You're trying to put logic on something that breaks the rules of logic. Well, it's not even that. It's you're challenging something that is so axiomatic to our worldviews that most people don't even think about it.
It's
like
magic.
It's the concept of time, and a lot of people just take time. Like a lot of people will take that for granted, that time goes past, present, future. The idea that your present could be someone else's future, or your past could be someone else's future, it turns things on a head. And a lot of times people get uncomfortable when paradigms start doing flip-flops like that, because it challenges a lot of things that a lot of people just take for granted and makes the comfort, it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Flatland is actually a really good one. Sorry, chat.
I like how this started out with all these examples.
God damn it.
It's okay. What did you have something that you wanted to jump in on?
Say, one of the smartest friends I've ever had in my life, whenever this conversation would come up, he would immediately go, no, time travel, I'm out. And I'd start to explain it to him. And I'd start to explain it to him. He would go, no, bullshit, time travel, I'm out. I'm like, you have an IQ north of 150. He goes, nope, bullshit, I'm out. I was like, okay, then. In story writing, rule number 1 should be don't write about time travel. Period. Like ever in anything.
But that goes back to when we were talking about tropes. It's a fun trope to talk about what if.
That being said, though, if you follow like a fixed timeline, it can make a really fun read. Like that's Alchemist and A Merchant's Gate. Like it's a short story, but it's based around a fixed timeline. And it's all about like the perception of the two, the alchemist and the merchant, and like their perception of the same timeline and how it's the same timeline, like basically, but the person doing like his manipulation of quote time is actually not a manipulation of time. It's actually the reason everything happens. And so like it's a Pandora's box that if you open it, you have to be prepared for really bad stuff to happen if you're going to try to make it make sense in a big story. Like if you're doing a short story, it's easy because you just be like, "Yeah, we're done. Goodbye."
So here's a question. We always talk about visiting the past because the past is something that has already transpired, so it's something we can visualize, that we can theoretically go back to. And the idea of the ripple and the butterfly effect of everything, time cop, time bug, whatever, affecting everything. We only talked about the past.
It would be,
but the idea
would be effectively the same if you visited the future, though.
Right, but if you visited the future, you're not affecting. You're the past self visiting the future. So does it?
But your lack of presence in the past from the time that you left to the time that you come back will be... Right,
but you would already been...
fixed
predestined to do that?
In a fixed timeline, you could argue that was the case. In a dynamic timeline, the synchronicity issue would come up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, everything falls apart and then you die.
Yeah. Pretty much. That's the summary of time travel, is everything falls apart and you die.
If you go to the future and you stay there.
I guess, because as long as, if we're all agreeing that the
future and you come back, that future is probably not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because you now know what happened, and you knowing has changed all of the events that led up to the happening in a dynamic timeline. So it doesn't happen anyway.
Right. Whereas in a fixed timeline, it's already happened anyways.
So it's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
But you die. It's fine. It's murky. It's murky because we always assume that the future is malleable.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to figure out a way to say it. It's like that's also assuming that time is traveling in a linear fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Do not bring up Endgame to me.
What about Kung Fu Panda 2?
Bullshit. I mean, okay, I'll give Kung Fu Panda 2 a pass. Don't even get me into freaking Endgame.
All right, so shout outs before Rick goes off on a rant.
Pull up my notes that I've been like, oh my God, I can't even follow this anymore. Because we've been off show notes for a little while now. Next week, our guest is Saints Workshop on the topic of Eva's journey. And upcoming, we're going to do a behind the scenes on the 15th, recorded with Salty Cat. We're going to talk about art and Destiny community artist, and I don't know what else. He wanted to come on. I said, okay. So we're going to talk about stuff. We'll figure out what it is when we get there, because that's how my friend Howard. Yeah, sometimes. And he's an artist. He does a lot of graphic design, and I know he's talked about helping redo our stuff for the show. He's done a ton of work for other podcasts as well as streamers. He's done a lot of the digital art thing. He's not so much of a physical art or like a tactical art. He's definitely more in the digital realm. So we're going to be talking about that with him on the 15th. I'm not sure if we're recording that one live or if we're going to record it offline, but you will see that coming up in your feeds in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
Tag
And then
Rick, you're
finally,
it.
yeah.
I'm it.
Yep.
I'm gonna shout out somebody that truly he deserves it, Mr. Boop Cannon.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know Boop, you're not living your full life. You should know Boop. That's it.
Isn't year 2020 the year of the boop or something?
You know what? I don't try and understand what he do. I just go with it. Boop is a fixed point in time.
I love the sigh from Green. It's just like
understanding. Chad agrees with me.
Is Boop on PC or is he on Xbox?
Boop will
He
be
was
on PC because we actually donated a PC to him.
Nice. I'm going to come and demolish Boop in the Crucible because I despise Boop Cannon users and I know that's one of his favorite things to do.
I mean, it's literally his whole persona.
Yeah, I'm going to come and put an arrow in his face.
This is fine.
We still haven't done a 1v1. We've
Me
talked
neither.
shit to each other all the time, but we haven't.
I'm not
Yeah.
doing that. I got shit to do.
No, you don't. You lie.
There's no reason to get involved in all of that.
You don't want to try to shoulder charge a shotgunning, bow slinging hunter?
To what end? There's no engram at the end of that fight.
It's the prize of saying you can beat me.
Okay, so if I win, I beat up a girl. If you win, I got my ass beaten by a girl. I can't win.
See?
I can't win.
Perfect. It's perfect.
So why? What you think? You catfish somebody else with your wares.
I'll hustle you if I want. I'll hustle you if I want.
Catfish someone else.
You gotta get up early in the morning to get one over on me. I was born and raised in a briar patch.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh man. Well, another big shout out to Lethargic Hades. Thank you so much for the Podbean patronage, and then also to I just blanked on Taboo Emu for the
Emu.
for
Oh
the-
my god.
Emu.
Emu.
Emu. Wait, no, that's not
Emu.
how you
It's a
say that.
bird.
Emu.
Is it though? Is it?
It
Emu.
is.
It's a landlocked bird.
It's a landlocked bird.
It's like a dinosaur, really. Honestly, if you think about it.
Fair enough.
Taboo emotes. Yes.
Taboo emotes. Oh, don't
That's
Google
right.
search that.
No,
Oh,
do
man.
not look that up.
Do not look that up. All right. So until next time, guys, have a great night. Have a great week. I guess at this point, I hope you've had a great week, and we will see you later. There was a war about them. Yes, there was, and they won.
That's not what happened.
That's
But
totally what
the
happened.
war of emus.
The emus
great-
didn't win.
The emu totally won that
The
war.
emu totally won that war. What are you talking about?
Which emu? What are we talking about?
Oh
Like,
my
I thought-
gosh. Okay, hang on. We're searching.
thought it
You
was
don't
a
know about you don't know about the Great Australian Emu War.
Oh my god, it's the great. It's what is it? 1932, I think.
Something like that.
It's so.
What are
funny.
we calling this one, Blue?
Let's chat number
You
7.
You can stop recording as well, Rick.
I'm already noise reducing.
Sweet.
The Great Emu War. Emu War. Emu War.
Emu.
I'm gonna say that wrong.
Emu.
It's not
Emu.
emu. I got YouTube comments to.
Emu.
I took a raft
Emu.
of shit over that one. Emu.
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 I don't know.
Emu. It's like
Fucking large ass bird.
not an ostrich.
Yeah,
Not
that's-
an ostrich.
That's an
Not even
asshole.
remotely an ostrich.
They are assholes. Both ostriches and
Yeah, both of them are actually.
emus.
But they're
whatever.
so delicious.
They also make really good skincare products.
And motorcycle seats.
Oh, really? I've never seen I guess I've seen the leather. I just haven't seen it
They're
worked
rude
into.
birds.
Rude birds.
they, the,
They're just read the story of the emu war. It's just like
Oh my god.
So the Australian government, because the emu were overpopulating, actually declared war on the birds and
they
sent
lost.
the army to fight them. And after they
That's the
soon
most
calculated-
Australian thing I've ever heard.
Well, the problem was they calculated the cost to actually eradicate them, and they were like, "We can't afford this. Fuck it." They win, and they went home. We can't afford. There's too many of them. Their superior numbers took out the Australian army.
20,000.
I'm trying to find the quote. Where was it? Oh yeah, after the withdrawal, compared the emus to Zulus and commented on the striking maneuverability of the emus. If we had a military division with the bullet carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks.
986 emus were killed. 9,860 bullets were used up.
What?
Yes, they can't. They had full-on machine guns. Couldn't take them out.
Oh my god.
The emu command had evidently ordered guerrilla tactics.
Absolutely. Truly a worthy adversary.
With 9,860 rounds.
If we had-
Dear God. 10 rounds per confirmed kill.
And you know what? Losing to the emu is still more respectable than losing to the French.
That's fair. That's fair.
Totally.
That's
To the
ridiculous.
North will run by default. This is a fact. They invented that.
So, okay, I know they
They are
migrate.
ninja birds.
I know they migrate and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, so what happened was I think it was like it either there was too much, it flooded, they got displaced basically, and they just destroyed all the crops, and that's what pissed them off.
Gotcha. There was a second attempt. Oh my god.
Was there a second attempt? Oh shit,
That's
there
what-
was. That was
They lost twice.
that was the second attempt's the one that's the
Australian
986.
military- Oh god. Do you see Trechion's
I
comment?
did a video on this.
Something to say about the
No,
nimbleness
no,
of
this
the
is- this
Australian
is a-
emu, or
this
just
is a
the
comment-
Australian
no.
military were shit shots.
No, this is a comment on the birds are just freaking tough. Like,
Right?
I mean, I legitimately, I have a video on this topic on YouTube.
That's ridiculous.
Hold please.
the simple history one.
Ridiculous.
No, you, neither one of you have actually seen this.
No.
You said you have a video on it?
I have a video on this exact topic.
Unstoppable force meets an immovable object.
Hold,
Yeah,
please.
the problem is that one of them was not an unstoppable force or an immovable object. I think the
American
The humans.
explains. Oh no.
oh
You
fuck.
didn't know I made this?
American explains Australia to Americans.
This is my.
Oh, I
most
did
watched
see
video.
this. I did see that.
The Emu War is in there.
I forgot about it.
Oh.
This is my most viewed video. It has 321,000 views.
That's pretty funny.
If this was a practical joke, I was playing on the DDU, guys.
Yeah.
It is that shows you what I know about making content. Nothing.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you two. I've got to get going
Yep.
because
Where do I upload this?
so there
there should
is
be
a
a link.
link. If you scroll up, or I can repost it as well.
I'm
If you
sorry.
scroll up above where the mouse pad is, the link just above that is the Google Drive link.
Where is mousepad?
stream.
Mouse
Have a
pad
great
picture.
night. We will see you next week.
Night, you guys.
Nah, they lost